In the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station.
It's time to start the show and talk about the sports we saw. Inside jokes and takes from Danger and Battaglia, Bills and the Sabres and the Ambers. Who gave a microphone to these jerks? Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. Welcome to the sports bar, that's where you are. With Danger and Battaglia.
Hey, Hardy, good afternoon to you. As we welcome you in to Rochester's only local sports talk show. You have found the sports bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. We're glad you're listening along at 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester, and the free-to-download Odyssey app, our YouTube channel at The Fan Rochester, and on Twitch. You can even get us on your smart device. When you ask it to play 95.7 The Fan, we have a loaded show. Dare I say we have more guests this afternoon in the next 3 hours than we've ever had, maybe short of Buffalo Bills training camp.
No, I was going to say camp is always kind of a whirlwind where I swear we're going from guest to guest to guest. PJ Championship, we might have done that, but you know what? Couple local teams, things are happening. The Nighthawks are back home for the first time since I don't know how long tomorrow night, so we'll be talking to their head coach. And then, for the first time since 1991, again, where your proud home is St. John Fisher Athletics, they have a new football coach. So we'll talk to Ed Raby coming up at the end of the show today. Welcome him to Rochester, see if he gets a vibe for the program in the town here.
Yeah, so you mentioned Ed Raby. Mike Hassan, our Rochester Nighthawks head coach, will be stopping by right around 4:25, and we're going to make sure we mix in some Buffalo Bills talk from the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis. Alex Brasky of Bills Digest will join us before 5 o'clock in happy hour. And Dan Fates of 13 Web Sports Buffalo Plus stopping by the sports bar here right around 3:25.
So Brasky and Fates both out in Indianapolis. That seems to be where we're talking football, talking about what the Bills may do here in the draft and certainly free agency.
We're not talking about any of that, Gene.
No,
we're talking about insider on insider violence. That's what we're talking about.
Well, isn't this, like, if we backed out the lens here a little bit, there has to be like a competitor or a coworker. Like, at what point are you diplomatic, and at what point does that kind of cross the line? I don't know exactly what happened.
I'm not a journalist, okay? I will never pretend to be a journalist or somebody with quote-unquote journalistic integrity. Like, I would view the way I view the true, like, reporters, the journalists, the people that have all of that, they are a very catty bunch. Very competitive, very catty.
They're not self-aware. I'll put that in there, too. Like, what we're doing, we're just talking. I had one journalist, you know him, this was years ago, find my cell phone, call me up, screaming that, like honestly, like, okay, just kind of back down. It's, I don't want to say it's
What'd you do? Yeah, just what'd you do that got him upset? Did you report something inaccurately? Did you not credit the journalist with the story?
No, I mentioned the journalist by name. I was working at a different station, and I didn't believe the journalist's report about Willis McGahee. And, it was about a contract or something.
How dare you question the journalistic integrity?
And I just said, I said I questioned the report. And then, 20 minutes later. And then the funny thing is, like, other TV people, like, oh, so-and-so's really upset with you. Really? I'm giving my opinion.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I don't know why that is in that business that you get so wound up about what you're putting out there.
There's always going to be that element of it. And the insiders do a lot of work, right? Like, I don't want the job of an Adam Schefter or an Ian Rappaport or a Jordan Schultz or any of those guys, because it feels like they're attached to their phone constantly. They're getting fed constantly stuff that needs to go out. And, I don't know how much they have to do in terms of, like, citing their sources but you'll see it now. Even Schefter will, like, news will break, and they'll say, this news courtesy of the agency or the agent of this player. I think he did it with Shakir earlier this week. Like, he had to break the news of Shakir's extension, and he said that it was courtesy of the agent of Khalil Shakir. I never wanted to be in that world, the world of breaking news I think it's fun and cool if you could say we have a scoop and we know that something is going to happen before it happens.
I think it's like,
but you have to be accurate.
Okay, so correct, and I think for anybody that excels at this, how do you keep going and going and going and going off of this? It's the social media disease that many of us have, that when you put something out and you get a like, you get a little dopamine rush. Well,
Sure.
Imagine that times a million
Right.
if you're breaking a story there. That's what the dopamine rush. I feel like we have to.
It's the dopamine rush, and it's also I don't need to be right. I want to be first. Like, we worked with somebody here for years who only wanted to be first, wanted to break the news, didn't care if it was right, didn't care if it was slanderous, didn't care where it came from, just wanted to be first. And that's also dangerous. Yes, let's back it up so everybody kind of understands. The NFL scouting combine in the last 24 hours has taken a turn from the focus being on the prospects that are there, the handful of them that are actually working out, to a couple of NFL insiders getting into an exchange.
So, and just like how yesterday, Mike Danger failed my Jerry Maguire quiz. Saying,
By the way, I watched Jerry Maguire last night.
Get out.
I had
Did you go
to.
find it?
I have it. I downloaded it years ago. I have a digital copy of it from years ago. And I'm like, I'm going to go revisit that movie. I want to see how it holds up. There are a few elements of it from a football perspective. No chance that you would see that in a football movie. Specifically the end. We're going to spoil it for everybody. When he's concussed and he's passed out and he's like lying motionless on the field, for him to get up and start doing a dance. You would not see that in today's NFL. You wouldn't have seen it in that era's NFL, but it was certainly more commonplace. Like, how's your head? My head's like bubblegum right now. Like, you wouldn't hear, the NFL wouldn't allow that in today's day and age. So there are a few elements around the game that don't hold up in 2025.
So I get home last night. The executive producer said, how did Mike Danger fail that quiz?
I can't believe fail
that quiz. The two cast members of Jerry Maguire, who later on will appear right here in the sports bar. One was just yesterday, Lee Steinberg, who, by the way, we get a lot of positive feedback anytime he comes on.
Now, did he appear, or is he just a consultant? Because I looked at the credits. I literally looked at the credits to see, all right, where's Steinberg? Listen, I didn't see him in the cast, but I did see him as like a technical consultant.
He is it's either right at the very end or, no, I know where it is. It's like at the beginning where Maguire hasn't been fired yet, and he's at some sort of
birthday party.
No, it's at a convention where a lot of things are moving, and Steinberg is on camera. And he
the
does
draft.
have a line. No, it's not the draft. It's like an expo or something like that, where you see it's like an NFL sort of event, and Lee Steinberg is there.
Okay.
And they make reference to him. The other being, my gosh, we had Bert Sugar on the show. Danger, the great Jay Moore.
Yeah. I'm really disappointed in myself for not getting that.
You were on the total wrong track. You're thinking.
I was only thinking about players. I wasn't thinking about actual actors. And yeah, Jay Moore, alumni of the sports bar.
Tony Bennett in
Gray
studio.
skies are gonna clear up, okay.
Coach,
Box somebody out. How you doing, everybody? Tony Bennett, okay.
Tony Bennett, coach, Virginia Cavaliers coach in studio with us. Coach, how you rebounding from last year and the disappointing loss?
Last year, we lost to a 16th seed. Well, I don't know who we lost to last year, but I know they were a fine group of young men with a lot of whites. Hey ho, way to go. I swear to God, if you don't hit your free throws, you're going to take a trip on a train. You'll be out of here. Okay.
So while we had two people from Jerry Maguire on with us in the history of the sports bar, we've had these two NFL insiders on with us in the sports bar as well.
Yeah, so Jordan Schultz, who we had on way back when, and we could pull that up, he is the one guy that said Josh Allen is not only going to make in this league, he's going to be a superstar. Like, we have that audio somewhere. This is like you're kidding me. And you have to understand at the time, that was like the total anti-take.
This is from June of 2018.
I think the Bills made an unbelievable move to get Josh Allen. Like, I don't know if I'm the minority here, but I think it was a phenomenal move. I think he's the quarterback of the future. And if I'm a Bills fan, I'm ecstatic because he's going to relate to guys. Guys are going to love playing for him. His arm is going to be able to push through that weather, which is something obviously Bills fans know all about. You have to have a strong arm quarterback. He's smart, a lot smarter than I think he was given credit for. at a small school like Wyoming. And everybody I've talking with has been really impressed with him. Obviously, like you said, it's early, but he'll have an opportunity to be the face of that franchise for the next decade plus. So if I'm a Bills fan, I'm ecstatic.
Who said that at the time?
Nobody.
Yeah,
everybody was kind of like, oh, boy.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Yeah, right. Credit Jordan Schultz, okay? And just to give you the context, okay, and we've had him on a couple times since then. Jordan Schultz yesterday. Now he's an insider for Fox. So these are the battle lines these days. Fox has Glazer too, but they've also brought in Jordan Schultz. You have Ian Rappaport, NFL Network. You have Adam Schefter, ESPN. You have other various insider guys. This is Jordan Schultz yesterday, and we talked about this. I'll just read verbatim here. Sources, Raiders minority owner Tom Brady recently hosted Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford at his home in Montana, where they spent time together and went skiing. Brady has been actively trying to convince Stafford to join the Raiders, and discussions are ongoing. Is anything wrong with that report? I don't know. I mean,
there's a lot there,
Yeah.
and how much of that is factual. I mean, if you're going to put that all out in a report, that's a lot there that you have to check on, right? Are negotiations going on right now? Are talks ongoing?
Yeah.
Did they go skiing?
It sounds like when you are inviting somebody over to your home, and maybe it's not Tom Brady's home, but it's one of his places that he goes and retreat, and then you kind of go back through his history like, oh, he's got a place up in Montana.
Right.
Wow. Maybe there's something to this.
That report goes beyond, though, just Brady and Stafford have had a conversation, right?
Yes.
There's a lot of color there that you don't normally see when an insider puts out a report. It's, it's so-and-so is franchise tagged or whatever it is, right? Like it's usually more brief than that. Jordan going into detail as to what he's reporting there.
Yeah, to the point of even going skiing, which for an NFL quarterback going skiing, I'm like, wow, look into the contract. You're actually allowed. But, hey, that's a great scoop by Jordan Schultz. Can we not say that? That maybe it's not the Giants. Maybe the Raiders are going to trade for the Rams quarterback. Well, just a little shortly after that, this is yesterday while we were on the air, Ian Rappaport, Raiders minority owner Tom Brady and Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford ran into each other at a ski resort in Montana, sources say. The meeting, unplanned, was not extensive or in-depth. It did not include Brady, finger quote, hosting or, quote again, recruiting Stafford, despite reports saying otherwise.
Oh, we've got dueling insiders, dueling reports.
We will have hundreds of contradictory reports, but here's where I think actually Rappaport is in the wrong. By putting the quotes there, it's almost like you're saying, stay down, Jordan Schultz. You don't have the story. Schultz then retweeted, oh, if you believe they just ran into each other on a ski resort in Montana, I've got a bridge to sell you.
Wow.
So it's going back and forth. Now it gets into last night, and according to Armando Salguero and others, Schultz at one point reached out to Rappaport or his people and said, hey, we need to talk.
Yeah.
Which, that's kind of what you should do. If you've got a dispute, like, take it offline.
I like it.
And honestly, like, hey, you are mocking my report by putting those in quotes, right? Well, this is where we don't have all the details, only that it was actually PFT commentator from Barstool putting out last night. We had two insiders need to be separated last night at a Starbucks inside the hotel at the Combine, and NFL security was called. What?
Yes. This is what the Combine needs. We don't need guys running around in their underwear, Gino.
No.
We need insiders in a cage match at a Starbucks. And the ultimate irony of all of this is if Jordan Schultz sounds like a familiar name, his dad, Howard Schultz, is the founder of Starbucks. Home field advantage.
Home field advantage. And, I'm going to say this about Jordan Schultz. The guy works his tail off. And how many times has he probably come across you're privileged, you got everything kind of handed to him? Well, his work ethic speaks otherwise.
Dude, I didn't put two and two together on that guy until maybe like 6 months ago. Up until that point, all I thought to myself is Jordan Schultz is hustling. as an NFL insider. Because when we had him on
No idea.
in 2018, we didn't know who his dad was. And in fact, I think at the time he was just kind of an independent NFL insider. I don't think he was working for anybody. I don't even remember who he was. Do you remember who he was working for?
He was working for the Fan in Toronto.
Or was it like
It's
Bleacher
like-
Report or
yeah,
something like that?
he was just kind of bouncing around. But you know what? If you're a good reporter and you're putting content out there,
Yeah.
yeah, you're gonna people will hire you. And to his credit, he would take radio interviews and get his name out there, even with good old Rochester, New York.
That's
yes,
right.
I want to and let me tell you something. You guys have drafted your franchise quarterback. Pfft, okay, sure, Jordan. Thanks for coming on. Yeah. No, I just want to point that out. That some may say, "Oh, privilege." Well, you know what? He's made a name for himself in his own regard, but. Isn't it ironic that this happened in a place where his father was the CEO or one of the venues? Yeah.
And so the report is that Schultz was, basically said we're going to have some effing problems, or we're like he was using some expletives, but he's dialed it back and said I didn't use any expletives, and the NFL security is involved, and like now Starbucks is like the punchline in Indianapolis. I'm curious. Is Fates? I mean, do we have anything like this inside the Bills media room? Is there any squabbling happening between Bills insiders?
Ooh.
I would like to see that. I think that makes it a little spicier, a little bit more entertaining.
Yeah.
A little cage match. We've seen some disagreements, some maybe in terms of tact and how I know that there's two insiders that we've talked to in the past that if you put them in a room together, they could maybe go a couple rounds. Just because of just different interactions that I've witnessed with them.
I can only speak for myself personally, but maybe you. Like I can't imagine myself ever getting to the point where you're going to get to a physical altercation or something.
No. And what would it take for that to happen? Like, I've never once, like, if we're at Bill's camp, I've never once said, "Oh, so and so got them, and we didn't get." Oh, I hate that person. They scooped us, or they got a better get. No, I don't think that way. I don't really think that way.
One time I got the finger pointer in the face too. Won't tell you who. Unless you come out to Bill Gray's tap room in March, I'll tell you off the air. Hey, you can't be saying that. Oh,
yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll spend some time in the corner, Gene. Go in timeout. Go think about what you've said. Go think about what you've done. So I guess that's where it's at. I mean, like we've been saying all week, basically since the Four Nations tournament, when there's a rivalry, things are more entertaining. When there's a little violence involved, I'm not saying I want to see anybody get hurt. I'm glad nobody got hurt. Maybe some feelings got bruised, but yeah, it makes it a little spicier.
Well, we've all been in the restaurant, or in this case, the coffee house, where all of a sudden you're just minding your own business, and somewhere voices get elevated. And you're like, what's that? Can you imagine being there at that time, and then you turn around, oh my gosh, look who it is. Because you figure like the majority of people there are in the industry knowing that this is going on.
Right. The last time I think I was in a spot where things got escalated, believe it or not, the dining hall at the Disney Caribbean Beach Resort.
Oh, wait a
in
second.
Orlando.
I remember the story. Can I see if my memory's correct?
Yeah.
You're just minding your own business, and some father flies off the handle to his family.
Loses it.
Oh,
just goes unhinged. And look, if you've gone on vacation with your family and you have kids, it's not always relaxing. If you find pockets of relaxation, but there's some moments of tension. And for whatever reason, whatever the case was, this dad had enough. And he kind of stood up from the table and he just said, "That's it! I've had it!" He just starts losing his mind, and everybody's kind of looking over at him. And I'm telling you, Disney personnel was over there to diffuse that within moments. You cannot disrupt the happiest place on earth with your meltdown, pal. And they just kind of pulled him aside, ushered him away.
You're going to Disney
had
jail.
Had a little talk with him, sort him out a little bit. What's it going to take to get you to stop losing your cool, man? Do we need to get you a Dole Whip? What do you need? A churro? Let's get here. Have a churro. Calm down. This is the happiest place on earth. You're not allowed to lose your temper.
Funny, like it must be like a dad on vacation thing. No, it wasn't at Disney, and if you're on Cape Cod, you know. Pirates Cove on Route 28, miniature golf, okay? And it's one of those places, Danger, you got to wait like 20 minutes, so you're waiting in line for this, and just some father, I have had enough, screaming.
Yeah.
And like the rest of the round, we're just all like, okay, we're ready to go. Like we really don't want to be.
Watch out for the guy with violent tendencies holding a putter with his blue golf ball.
Rappaport has to know if he's gonna poke the bear like that, or maybe this is deep sea. Like honestly, I want to know more here.
Right.
Where does this kind of stem from?
Right. Well, Jordan Schultz is relatively the new kid on the block here, but he's done a great job. I think he's really kind of elevated his game here, and you see more and more reports from Schultz. And Rappaport, I think, also has an obligation to his employer, the NFL. So maybe part of what Rappaport put out there was meant to sort of diffuse what ultimately a lot of us saw as tampering. Now, the NFL has come out and said, that's not tampering. We talked about it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's not tampering because the Rams gave permission for him to go out and test the market. No tampering there. But I think when a lot of people saw that report from Jordan Schultz, it got engagement because many of us were wondering, what the hell is tampering then? If that's not tampering, what is? And so Rappaport, putting it out the way he did, it was a chance encounter. It wasn't anything planned, is an added layer of safety for the NFL, which really doesn't have to, defend itself. But if Rappaport is being a company guy.
I took it to mean I got scooped. And I'm going to kind of like shoot this down. Like Rappaport, like there was a fake scoop the day before there from Cecil Lammy in Denver, and he will always regret this, right? He had the story wrong on Gronk, and like it was Rappaport and others just shooting that down.
Yep.
This was different. This was personal. And all Rappaport had to do was just not put the finger quotes around hosting and recruiting.
Yeah. Yeah, that might have been it. Let's go to somebody who's there, and maybe even at a Starbucks. We don't know where Dan
Come on,
Fates
I want to
is.
see like Mike Danger against Mike Shope.
No.
Come on,
Not
let's get it
happening.
going.
Not
Yes.
happening. Not happening. I have too much respect for those guys. Dan Fates.
Okay, I'll do it on your behalf.
13 Web Sports, Buffalo Plus. The bell of the ball, Fates and Catalana, both with a lot of eyeballs on them this week because Sean McDermott went comedy routine in the backdrop of one of their stand-ups earlier this week. We'll get Fates to be our ears and eyes at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis next. You can join us on the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. That number is 866-4FAN. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub at 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com.
You're listening to the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Open Door Mission is deeply grateful. Because of your generous hearts, you've opened many doors, including those in need to find shelter with respect and dignity. With your continued help, more doors will open. Please go.
To a game-winning day. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Buffalo Sabres hit the road tonight. They've been playing well. Winners of 5 of the last 6. Buffalo at Carolina. Our coverage will begin at 7 here on the Sports Leader. The Amherst on the road tomorrow night at Utica. The NFL Combine continuing in Indianapolis. Dane Brugler from The Athletic on Texas Longhorn D lineman Alfred Collins.
Say day 2, a guy like Alfred Collins from Texas.
Right.
6'5.5", 320 pounds. The arms are almost 35 inches. This guy is so disruptive versus the run. He sees it so well, powerful at the point of attack. We're going to get our safety here or whatever position they go in the first. Day 2, round 2, a guy like Alfred Collins. That's who I'm targeting.
We will talk to 13 Wham and Buffalo Plus's Dan Fates coming up here in just a little bit. Next hour, Alex Brasky from Bills Digest, also on the Combine. Gene Battaglia, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Straight up with no chaser. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
You damn right. I don't see how now. Don't get fooled by what you did by allowing some guys to get out of the door. You made some good draft picks. Some guys came in and helped you. This young man is special. What he's able to do, and I didn't know that he had the ability to run inside behind his pads with the power that he displayed in playoff football caliber games. I was just impressed with him. And then the intelligence, understanding the game, it's next level. Next level.
Hall of Fame running back Marshall Faulk believes the Buffalo Bills should pay the man. Talking about James Cook. That's from earlier today, the Rich Eisen show. One of the many Buffalo Bills storylines everybody's following this week from Indianapolis in the NFL Scouting Combine.
Yeah, one of the things that we're pulling out of the conversation we had yesterday with super agent Lee Steinberg, who, by the way, he's the agent for Patrick Mahomes. So even though, like, you remember him from back in the day, he's still very much in tune with what's going on. It was kind of a chuckle, like, hey, look, deals are getting done this week, right? Like, yeah. This is when it's all happening here. Like when legal tampering begins on March 10th, you're kidding, right? Like that's the first day that the Buffalo Bills will pick up the phone and talk to free agents. No, a lot of that is already happening now. And by the time we get to March 10th, that's when you can actually just send in the paperwork to the league.
Yeah. Well, Marshall Faulk, somebody in the camp that believes that, not surprising being that he's also a former running back, believing that the Bills should pay up for James Cook and that's somebody that is definitely worth what he's asking for. We'll try and get Dan Fates on from us here from Indianapolis. I mean, one of the things that is of note from this week, and Fates is a part of this because Catalana and Fates are doing their stand-up earlier this week, and we see Sean McDermott kind of like clowning them in the background, doing a little like practical joke where you look like you're walking downstairs.
I mean, he's got a big smile on his face looking at the camera, too.
Yeah. Shecky McDermott here. He's going to start ending his press conferences with "Take my wife, please."
Who is Sean McDermott? Who is he? Like, we think we know. We've been dealing with this guy since 2017, right? And he's a very good football coach who hasn't gotten the team over the top yet. And at what point does your patience run out to zero? Well, the Bills this past year exceeded expectation. Can we just say that? I think we can say that out loud. It's very disappointing when you come within one possession of the Super Bowl, but when you look at where the team was entering the season and where you ended up, now if you end up with the same result after this year, then I don't know where we go from that. But I think McDermott is an excellent football coach, but again, I think he's putting on an act half the time. Like, do you see other NFL coaches kind of goofing off like this? I don't know.
Andy Reid. And that's where he got, where he cut his teeth. So
could you ever imagine Mike Tomlin doing something like that?
Yeah, that would be tough.
John Harbaugh.
I could see maybe making a joke or two. The Harbaugh brothers, I feel like they're serious, but at times they can add some levity in there as well. The other big bit of news here is in the last 24 hours, NFL related at least, is that we do have now a hard number for the 2025 NFL salary cap. We know that the cap max now will be set for 2025 at $279.2 million.
Which, if you go back to the year 1995, was at $37 million. So, what other business has this sort of exponential growth? It's unbelievable. And I would say this, if you think, hey, this is great news for the Buffalo Bills, they can now, take the cap hit for Myles Garrett. Well, yeah, so can the Eagles and so can any other team. So it's all comparatively speaking. I think the Bills will have money to do whatever they want to, Danger, if they actually go to Josh Allen. That would be step number one, and just shave down his base to nothing, pay him the bonus, give him the contract he deserves.
I think this is why, you saw Shakir get extended. You probably have extensions in the hands of the other players that they want to extend here, because right now they rank 30th out of 32 teams. They're approximately $10.1 million over the cap just with their top 51. So you have to address that here and start to spread out those cap hits. Josh Allen restructuring there, an extension there for certain has to happen. And maybe he's right. Maybe they won't take any big swings in free agency. Brandon Beane I'm talking about here, because they can and get those extensions and contract adjustments made specifically around Josh Allen to get cap compliant here and be able to still make a few moves to improve your roster.
Yeah, is this going to be, and we go back to last year, the week between the combine and free agency, what's the show, forgive me, the one with the red wedding? You know what I'm talking about.
Game of Thrones?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll add it to my list.
I've never watched it.
No, me neither, but I've heard about the scene.
I don't like dragons and wizards and stuff.
No, I've heard it's pretty violent and whatever you want to call that. The Red Wedding. I'm like, oh my gosh, they released Trey White. Oh my gosh, it was one after another. No Poyer, no Trey White. Well, you look at this. I mean, could you have a restructure, not in the sense of, hey, Josh Allen, we're going to give you an extension and lower your base, but Dawson Knox, we need you to take a pay cut. Could you see the Bills just outright release a Daquan Jones? Because that would save a couple million, because I'm not sure if he makes this team next season. I mean, there's other areas where theoretically you could kind of move on. Right at the top of the list, Danger, is Von Miller. Von Miller, if he's on the roster next year, $23 million. It's a $15 million dead cap hit, but there's a little bit of savings there if you move on from Von.
Right now, there are 5 teams that are over the cap, and the Bills are one of the 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's not it's not company that I think, I know that they'll work it out. It's not a big deal now, but I don't like that they're 30th out of 32 teams as far as cap space going into free agency. The Saints, by far, in the worst situation. They're $47 million over the cap. Cleveland, $24 million over the cap. The Bills, as I mentioned, just over $10 million over the cap. Seattle, $7.1 million over the cap. And Atlanta is $5.2 over the cap.
Well, again, for Von Miller, would it surprise you if the Bills released Von Miller before March 10th? No, not at all. That would save you $8 million. Then you just make a paperwork move somewhere else, and then you're fine. And remember, the top 51 does not equate to the actual cap itself, so you can work on that as the year goes on.
Yeah. Another bit of just, when we're talking about salary cap or free agents, the Chiefs. Oh, the Chiefs. There are a lot of teams that were looking at the free agent market, and they were saying to themselves, you know what? If there's a guy that we want to lock down that could be something of value for our offensive line moving forward, I'm talking about my team. I'm talking about the Bears. Trey Smith will be franchise tagged by the Kansas City Chiefs with the hope that they can get him an extension. They want to keep him in Kansas City. So unlike the Snead franchise tagging last year where he ended up leaving, Trey Smith will likely stay with Kansas City. And if he plays on the franchise tag, will be the highest paid guard in the NFL for one season.
I'm surprised by this. Is he good? I mean, I'm being honest. I look at the Chiefs' offensive line overall. I'm like, well, don't you need more than just that? That's who they're going to spend their money on?
He's one of the guys that they're going to spend their
Yeah.
money on. The other bit of Chiefs news is we got confirmation on Kelsey. Kelsey, the report was, and you heard from Veach and you heard from Andy Reid, oh, yeah, he's coming back. And Kelsey basically putting it out there. I don't like how last season ended. Got a bad taste in my mouth. I'm going to work hard this offseason and come back for for another ride.
Well, that would be a change from last offseason. At least that's what I assume. But,
Yeah.
I love how the PR machine all of a sudden put out, well, Super Bowl went bad because, didn't you know, he was battling something. He was under the weather. Oh, boo-hoo.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And? So there's just a couple of different NFL headlines for you here as the salary cap becomes official today. They make the announcement of what exactly teams are going to be working with.
Yeah, I mean, my gosh. Yeah, according to Spot Track, 10.3 right now. The Bills have to clear. But again, if you've won Von Miller, and you'll be okay on that. Dead cap isn't bad. 17th right in the middle on that. So really, you're paying. This isn't for past sins, Danger. Trey White, half of that's going to show up on the books. But other than that, though, like you think to where the Bills were last year and to where they are now.
Yeah, their dead cap is not as bad as it was in 2024. That much we know. But the idea that they're already over the cap, yeah, they have to rework some numbers here, get some extensions. I don't like the company that they're in right now. When I look at who they're around there in terms of ranking with cap space, they're teams that don't really necessarily feel like winning organizations to me.
Well, if you see, I think you could do the Rousseau thing, but you would have to give him a new contract. And I'm not talking like 3 years, you're talking like 5, right?
Yeah.
So you're talking something big for 5, 6, maybe even.
Let's take a quick break here, Gino. We'll come back. I got a little bit more on Kelsey returning in 2025. And I know next hour we're jam-packed with Alex Brasky stopping by the sports bar.
All these changes in the NFL, Danger, we talked a little bit about, okay, now they're going to use the 8, which is not the same as the chip in the football. Maybe we'll get to that point. But could we have another change in the NFL? And I think this is the perfect time to talk about this, that, hey, this is a way the league can make money, and could this actually be happening in Buffalo?
We'll get to that and more of your calls as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN. Engage with the Sports Bar on Rochester. Matthew, if we're drafting Bills beat reporters for a cage match, my number one pick is Sal Majorana. Experienced, cagey veteran, get off my lawn vibe, hashtag Team Sal. That's interesting, Matthew. Sal versus Sal. Who you got?
The one guy who will come after anybody is Tim Graham of The Athletic. Tim Graham, once upon a time, went after our guy Matthew Collar, not to go in the back. Like, that's a newspaper guy at heart and a journalist at heart, and he's the guy like, hey, if you're going to twist my words, I'm going to come after you.
Oof.
And I don't think Tim would mind me.
So if you go Tim versus Sal, Buffalo versus Rochester.
Sorry, Sal, I'm taking Tim.
Whoa!
Tim's taking you down.
Whoa!
Now, if I'm going to go the other Sal, Capaccio against Graham, I'm like, ooh, that's...
Capaccio against Majorana or Capaccio against Graham?
Capaccio against Graham. I think Capaccio, I think he's the tougher of the two Sals there.
Oh, you would take Sal Capaccio over Sal Majorana?
Majorana.
You
right.
would?
Yeah.
I don't know that I would. I think I agree with Matthew here. I think Sal fight dirty. I think he'll take you down. Cagey. He's cagey. Veteran presence. Thanks for the tweet. Appreciate that, Matt.
You see, like, you always take the print guy over the TV guy. Like, is Catalana getting up in anybody's grill? No.
Right. I just think of that scene in Anchorman where they're about to throw down. Like, no touching of the hair or the face. The TV guys, they're already, they're trying to fight with one hand tied behind their back. They can't do it. The print guys, the radio guys, we don't care. We're going to get dirty. We're going to scrap.
Earlier in the show, you mentioned how you, for some reason, just were inspired to watch Jerry Maguire last night.
I did watch Jerry Maguire last night after we had the discussion about Jerry Maguire and having Lee Steinberg on the show yesterday sparked that conversation.
So I have another movie I want you to check out tonight, and again, this is timely. It's about time you watch one of the greatest sports movies of all time.
I know where you're going.
Oh, yeah. Don't be, I'm not going to watch it. Hoosiers is a great movie. You could say Hoosiers is the best basketball movie of all time. We lost Gene Hackman at age 95, and that seems like one of those true crime stories. Like, wait a second. Hackman, his wife, and the dog are all dead, but there's no foul play? Okay. So I want to know more on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure there'll be a true crime podcast or something that you can check out on that down the road. But
don't say it. You're going to add it to the list. You are a sports host. You should know.
I just know that movie isn't for me. Can I just say, like going in, I'm like, this movie's not for me. I just never got the sense that I would enjoy watching Hoosiers. I get it. It's a sports movie. It's a basketball movie. It's inspirational. It's the whole thing. I get all of that. But it's kind of like Field of Dreams. Like, I watched bits and pieces of Field of Dreams just enough to know, like, yeah, nah, I don't know. It's just not for me.
Dennis Hopper was great in Hoosiers.
Oh, Hopper's in
Hopper's. Oh, yeah. He's... Like, I wasn't familiar with his work, and then he's playing the drunk dad, basically.
Hopper's best role is True Romance. You remember True Romance?
No.
Christian Slater, Patricia Arquette. It's a Tarantino-written movie.
Oh.
From the 90s, and Hopper plays the Christian Slater's dad. And there's a scene with Hopper and Christopher Walken, and it's a masterpiece. If you know what I'm talking, if you know, you've never seen True Romance, so you'll have to add that to your list.
Okay.
But Hoosiers and Field of Dreams are the two sports movies that I've seen bits and pieces of through the years, through the course of time. I've never sat down and watched front to back, just because the little bits and pieces that I've seen, I'm like, I'm not really. Or maybe I come in the middle of the movie, I'm like, I don't know what's going on, and I'm discouraged by it. I just kind of leave it alone. But Hackman, I mean, he's Lex Luthor. He's the original Lex Luthor. Like, that's all I could think of is Lex Luthor.
That's what you know him for?
Yeah, that's the original. Like, he was Lex Luthor in the first Superman movie with Christopher Reeve back in the day. Man, I'm really dating myself. 50 is hitting me hard. Back in my day, Lex Luthor was played by a 95-year-old Gene Hackman.
But now it's like, I get confused sometimes. That can't be the only one. Like, wait a second. Gene Hackman was still alive. I'm like, oh, I'm sad he's gone at 95. And 95 is a pretty full life. But then I realize, okay, Dennis Hopper's gone. I'm like, gosh, how many people just aren't there anymore?
It sucks, man. Like, I was when I was off last week, my kid wanted to watch Friends. And I'm like, all I keep thinking to myself is like, God, people are, like people that we grew up with. All of our heroes are
like who died for?
Matthew Perry. I'm like, yeah, he's dead. I'm like, this is weird watching this now. I feel so old, but this show doesn't feel old to me. And I know that there's like a resurgence, like there's a popularity with some of these older sitcoms with kids. Like my teenager loves watching shows like Friends and Modern Family and The OC and all these like old shows and sitcoms from like the 90s. And I'm like, yeah, they're all gone. These are all people that have passed on. All of my favorite musical acts, they're, Alice in Chains. We were talking about Jerry Cantrell. Lane Staley, gone. Like all these guys are gone. It sucks. Getting old sucks.
Yeah. And then to bring it back to yesterday, the kid from Jerry Maguire's 34.
Yeah. The human head weighs 8 pounds. Well, Gene Hackman that is a full life, 95. A little bit suspicious there as to how that all went down. I think the original or the early report was, maybe it was carbon monoxide poisoning. But then I feel like I've seen reports saying that there was a bottle of pills around the wife. I'm not going to speculate. Right. I don't know what's going on. So
it's just sad. Yeah, apologies about Dan Fates. We're efforting, as they say in our business. But we do have Bills coverage. I can tell you, Alex Brasky from the Bills Digest and Batavia Daily News and the Right Here, Right Now podcast will be joined. That was one thing. He invited me on, though, Right Here, Right Now.
No kidding.
I don't know what date, but and Matt also while you were gone.
I saw Perino had one of our favorites, and Elena Getzenberg on the Shout podcast from Indianapolis this week. So yeah, I think it's we in the Bills media room. I don't think that there's any sort of maybe a little bit of cattiness, but nothing along the lines of what we've seen in the last 24 hours out of Indianapolis between NFL insiders Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport. Just
does this happen in other businesses though, where guys get up into each other's grill?
Radio used to be very competitive like that.
And what happened?
Not many people there's only a few of us left. So we just kind of huddle up and share stories about the good old days. Yeah, it used to be pretty competitive. I know the guy that hired me when I was a teenager, my first radio station. He one night got drunk and went to the competing radio station, knocked on the door until they let him in, and got into it with the guy that was on the air at the time. Ended up like throwing him down a flight of stairs or something like that. Just ridiculous. They just didn't see eye to eye, didn't like each other.
So back in the day, young Mike Danger, you never got into trouble like that?
No, I did other stupid things. I didn't get into any altercations. I was always aware of the competitors. And that's really what this is, right? You're talking about guys that are alphas. They're the best at what they do, and they want to be viewed as the best. And I'm sure if you're Jordan Schultz, you're working for Fox, and you're doing the best that you can to be on that Rappaport, Schefter level, because that's what's being expected of you. So I don't have any problem with him taking offense to the way Rappaport reported it. I don't have any problem with Rappaport doing what he did either. Like, Rappaport sees it differently, and his employer in the NFL probably appreciates that he took it a step back with the detail that Jordan provided. Like, Schultz provided some pretty explicit detail there as far as the Brady and Matthew Stafford encounter in Montana.
I guess that's kind of, we're overlooking that. That really, there's a market for Matthew Stafford. Isn't that kind of the storyline? Like, Tom Brady's not wasting his time with Matthew Stafford. He's vetting him, right? Isn't that what that's about? Like, that's kind of the last step. Like, hey, if we're going to trade for you, let's spend some time together. I want to get to know your goals. Can you actually help us win games? To me, that seems like the final step. Like, he's going to be a Raider.
Yeah, I think $50 million a year. And what's the guarantee? And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, and the Raiders don't have anybody. And all of a sudden, the Raiders are relevant.
Don't have anybody, and a lot of cap space with just under $100 million available to them heading into the 2025 season. So they are a team that could make it work.
Are we penciling in the Chiefs for the division or no? Because we got on Denver before saying, wait a second, that's a team that made the postseason. The Chargers made the postseason. If the Raiders, like we said this a couple years ago, and this is going to be the Thunderdome, the AFC West, and it ended up being just the Chiefs rolling
Mm-hmm.
everybody. So, do we actually have that this year if Stafford ends up in Vegas?
I don't know. I think I think right now it's too early to tell. There's a lot that needs to happen, but when you think about the Chiefs, with Mahomes coming back, with Kelsey coming back, with Rashee Rice coming back, with Xavier Worthy going into his second year, with a healthier Isaiah Pacheco, with an offensive line that should improve, I would imagine at some point they're going to find a way to improve this offensive line for Patrick Mahomes. Good defense. It's always been a good defense. I'm not going to – I need to see it.
Raiders feel if they get Stafford, new quarterback, new head coach, and you kind of always like this imagery coming from Vegas that feels like opening night of Monday Night Football.
Oh, yeah. I like that for sure. What about Kelsey coming back? There's another unintended consequence, and this looks like a movie we've seen before, Gino. I'll explain when we come back from the break next.
Yeah, and the idea that the Combine in Indianapolis, where is this written down that they get this forever and ever and ever? I'll explain.
Okay. We have more on the way. Time for your calls on the other side as well at 866-4326, 585-866-4FAN.
Rochester, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan, Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan, Rochester, sports update.
Back to the road for the Buffalo Sabres tonight. They take on Carolina. It's a team that the Sabres actually defeated back in January. Our coverage will begin at 7 tonight here on the Fan Rochester. The Amerks hitting the road this weekend. Nighthawks are home tomorrow night. We'll talk to head coach Mike Hassan coming up later this hour. The NFL Combine continuing. Cynthia Freeland on the pick at number 30.
I actually think that the corner from Michigan could be available there.
Will John? Really?
Yeah, I think he could. It's possible. I really like him. The good news for the Bills is, like, you don't need some of the things other people need. So that gives you some freedom.
Meanwhile, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce planning on returning in the year 2025. Sports is brought to you by GetMyPerks.com, where today you can get 2-for-1 rounds to golf to Eaglevale. For this and other great deals, log on to GetMyPerks.com. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Do you think the Combine's time has passed?
Are you red or are you blue? Are you a dog or are you a cat?
Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has been advised against surgery for now after a stress reaction in his right foot was found.
The biggest oxymoron in sports, legal tampering.
Mike Danger.
Right. And how much of that is already happening right now? Like right now. Are they having those conversations? Yes. It's happening. It's happening right now.
Gene Battaglia.
Defensive line is the number one need. I would listen to corner. I would listen to a safety if you felt like somebody could step in there right away.
And a wide receiver.
Another variable here, Danger. Hey, we're just going to draft the best guy and develop. No. I don't want to hear the D word. It's win now.
We do have Jalen Milroe.
Amerks, Sabres, Nighthawks.
We remember the life of Gene Hackman.
95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
You know, I think maybe my favorite Hackman role was The Firm. Remember The Firm?
Oh, he was scary in that.
He was great in The Firm.
Yeah.
Remember, The Firm was awesome because it painted Wilford Brimley, like big diabetes. Wilford Brimley was the bad guy. He was the muscle.
So basically, the premise of The Firm was the law firm was nothing more than laundering money for the mobsters, right? And then the Tom Cruise, the young green attorney, doesn't realize what he's getting into, and he's got to do the right thing. And and they blackmail Tom Cruise, but then I was always confused by the ending of that. Did Gene Hackman actually then get with Tom Cruise's wife?
I don't think so. I think he was just at the end. And I don't like that this is how I remember Gene Hackman, but I just remember him as kind of like being this sad old character. He was just this sad old man whose best days were behind him, and he's in this movie, The Firm, and I know that this is a character he's playing. I get that.
Yeah.
But that's like my lasting impression of Gene Hackman, like the last role that I truly remember him in and enjoying him in was that. That and maybe he's in Get Shorty, too. He was kind of funny in Get Shorty, but I think in The Firm, I enjoyed The Firm because it's like you expect us to believe that Wilford Brimley is the muscle that's going to intimidate Tom Cruise. Like I think Tom Cruise can outrun Wilford Brimley. What are we doing with this casting, guys?
No. What other sports movie was Gene Hackman in besides Hoosiers?
Oh boy.
Well.
Oh,
I'm going to forget. It's easy to
very
forget.
Forgettable. Yeah. The Replacements. Right, he was the head coach in The Replacements. That's the one with Keanu Reeves as the quarterback.
Yeah, the quick span speech, everything.
Very forgettable movie. I'm sorry. Very forgettable.
It was so bad the NFL wouldn't give him licensing. We had to come up with different team names, everything else.
That was a bad one. The other bad football movie I remember was Necessary Roughness. I think that movie was really bad. Remember that was the one where Kathy Ireland was like the team kicker at the height of her powers. And then I'm trying to think, is there another bad football movie? Nah. I like to think of the good one. I like to think of Any Given Sunday. Love Any Given Sunday. Fight for that 1 inch. That 1 inch. The Al Pacino speech. Fantastic. Mike Hassan, Rochester Nighthawks head coach, going to stop by the sports bar here in about 20 minutes. We'll also talk to Alex Brasky from Indianapolis before we get to 5 o'clock here in the Sports Bar.
Yeah, and we'll talk to new head coach Ed Raby of the St. John Fisher University Cardinals. A lot to get to, and time here this segment for your calls. If you want to jump in, you are always welcome at 866-4FAN, 866-4326. Of course, we're going to talk. This is what the NFL wants us to do, right? We're going to give you a few nuggets. The nugget today, like Travis Kelce's coming back. We will be talking about defensive linemen, and then the quarterbacks hit this weekend. But my gosh, all the money, tourist dollars, everything flowing in Indianapolis. Here's my question, Danger. Why not move this around? And why not Buffalo? Well, for starters, the weather this time of year, not great in Buffalo. It's not great in Indy, but it's really not good here. The point is, get ready for bidding for the combine, just like how we do this for the NFL draft. Indianapolis has had this event since 1987, and Indy, if there's a convention town in this country, that's the one that's it. You don't have to walk outside at all. All the hotels connected to the stadium, blah, blah, blah. Indy has it next year, but after that, cities that are interested in hosting the draft: Las Vegas, Minneapolis, Phoenix, Nashville. Those are the only ones we know about. They're all interested in bidding in this. Let's be honest. This is nothing more than a convention, Danger. You could put this anywhere. You don't need to have an NFL field. Just get out some AstroTurf and put it in whatever building you want to, even in Buffalo. The reality is this event is going to go to the highest bidder.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. And just kind of watching it from a distance here, what's happening in Chicago with their stadium. And, like, they're not trying to just build a stadium for the Bears. They're trying to build a stadium that will basically keep Indianapolis down. Like, we are going to take the Big Ten championship. We are going to take the scouting combine. We're going to take any event that you think, like, why are we giving Indianapolis all these dollars? We could have those dollars in our city. So I agree with you. I think that that's something that you will see. And the idea of the combine in Vegas, in Minneapolis, in Phoenix, yes, all of that makes sense. Nashville, when they get their new stadium, that makes sense. I don't see it in Buffalo, man. I don't see it in Buffalo because, you're right. I think it'll go to the highest bidder. I don't think the Bills or I don't think the Bagulers are really, interested in bidding for that. And I always hear about how there's just not enough infrastructure in Buffalo to support that kind of an event. Now, maybe you have people staying in Toronto or I don't know, but it just doesn't feel like it feels like well, Green Bay is going to host the draft this year, right? I'm curious to see how that plays out.
It's going to be at Lambeau, right?
Yeah.
I would think. You're not doing it in a little town of Green Bay, Wisconsin. By little town, it's, bigger than Greece, I suppose. I'm not saying if, I'm saying when Buffalo gets the draft, and I do believe they're going to be awarded
the draft. Yes, the combine.
No. I think the draft they could host, but what would be the setting? I'm thinking it's not in the new stadium. I think you do it right in the square downtown. You try to pack in 100,000. That's what the NFL would want.
Yeah,
we want the streets flooded because America loves the NFL.
It becomes a festival of the National Football League in your backyard.
Well, the NFL loved those pictures coming from Detroit last year.
Yeah.
Just miles of people.
I mean, think about what the draft was for generations and what it has become. It was kind of stuffy in a theater setting, and now it's a rock concert. It's a festival. It's a festival of the NFL. And that's why I know you said last year, like, who are these people that are going out to the draft in Detroit? It's like they're fans of football. They're just it's a festival of the NFL.
I asked the question online, why are you going to this? What's in it for you? And then, with the picture posted of just this crowd. And they're just all standing around waiting for the next pick. I don't see this crowd listening to music or dancing. This isn't a concert. It's not a sporting event. And then all of a sudden it goes viral, and you hear him every weeknight, Ryan Horvat. All of a sudden I start getting notifications on my phone. Hey, guy just called you Mr. Krabby Ass. How did I become Mr. Krabby Ass over that?
Because you can't have fun at the NFL draft. Why are these people at the NFL draft having fun? Who are these people? What are they doing there? Mr. Krabby Ass. That's good. My favorite thing to look forward to when the draft gets here at the end of April is inevitably, because it's a made-for-TV product, the plants. The super fans that aren't really super fans. The fans that just are there to get their 5 seconds on camera. They probably get, some gift cards or something to NFL shop provided by the NFL for them to show up in gear and just overdo it. Go crazy. You don't know who the pick is, but when that pick comes and we shine that light in your face, you're going to react with enthusiasm unlike you've ever seen.
The draft in Dallas. We had one of those plans. Like Andre Reed, hey, and we want to welcome in one of the greatest Bills fans of all time, Pancho Villa. I've never even heard of Pancho Villa. That was like when he was kind of introduced. So they can plant. Is that wrong to say the late Pancho Villa was a plant?
I don't know that he was a plant. I'm talking like because they brought him up on stage. He was part of the show.
Right.
I think as part of like the TV production, you've got dozens and dozens of fans from every individual team just there. Like, let's face it, the draft is going to be in Green Bay. How many Falcons fans do you think are going to make the trek to Green Bay? Right? I mean, but inevitably when you're watching the draft, you'll see there'll be a pack of Falcons fans with the thick chain and the jersey and the face paint. Yeah! They're just excited over whoever it is that they take.
The one draft I was so disappointed on was Vegas. I'm like, oh, gosh, you're going to have this scene and right on the Strip or maybe the Bellagio fountains or whatever it is, and it looked like they were in a hangar, and I couldn't really tell watching that on television it was in Vegas.
Yeah, well, Green Bay will be a lot of fun, and we're one step closer here with the Combine in Indianapolis this week. Now, we also heard earlier this week from both the Chiefs GM and Chiefs head coach, they expected that Travis Kelce would be returning in 2025. Kelce making that kind of official today, telling McAfee that he is indeed going to come back for next season with the Chiefs. And look, while this might be great news for the Chiefs, Swifties, this is bad news, okay?
Why?
If you're a Swiftie, this is terrible news. We've seen this movie before, Gino. Look, at some point, Taylor Swift is going to want Travis Kelce to stop taking the punishment that an NFL player takes and start prioritizing their life together. The guy already has a Hall of Fame career. He already has multiple rings. He has more money than he's ever going to need. What else does he need to prove? He's coming back for another year, so it means one of two things. One, he's not ready yet to step out of the spotlight, which could create some friction if Taylor starts, planning for their future beyond his career in the NFL. Or B, he's just chasing this last ride, knowing that the end is near, which means he's going to push himself harder, which at his age now risks injury, wear and tear, and potentially could cut his season short on a low note. Now, either way, this decision has consequences beyond the field. Does Taylor really want to spend another year in the suites, dodging NFL cameras during broadcasts to cut to her every reaction every time Kelce makes a catch? This might be the first major test of the Travis Kelce, the trailer relationship, Kelce-Taylor relationship here. If the Chiefs struggle, if Kelce gets banged up, yeah, there could be some. This has Brady Giselle 2.0 written all over it, doesn't it? Kelce returning. That might be the decision that eventually leads to these two breaking up. If Taylor wanted him to step away and he didn't, in any relationship, Gino, that's a red flag.
Since we're on this kick of 90s movies danger, what's the one line that Marissa Tomei is known for?
From My Cousin Vinny, right? She was in My Cousin Vinny, and she's just over.
My biological clock is ticking.
Yeah, she's doing. Of course, she's doing because she's Italian.
Peak Marissa Tomei, without question.
No question.
Yeah, Travis Kelce, sure, he can go play football. She's 35. Like, if she wants a future, I'm just kind of putting it out there. I'm not none of my business for sure, but it's interesting you're drawing the comparison to Giselle. Another take on this, Danger, and that's this. Did the NFL actually negotiate this with Taylor Swift? Because anytime she shows up in a box in Kansas City or wherever, the networks love that. The league loves that.
For sure.
So what is it to Taylor Swift to show up, or did she just stay away this whole year?
But she didn't. She was visible. She didn't
Coming
go to
up,
every
though.
game.
Coming up, though. Like, do they have to make a like, I am a full believer, Danger, that they took a look at the schedule and like, all right, knowing that the Bills are. She's up in Toronto. Let's make sure that we can put the Chief. She didn't come here, by the way.
Right.
That didn't work out.
Yeah, she didn't. She came once.
Yeah,
the playoff game, and she's like, "Okay, I'm good. I don't need to come back to
enough.
Buffalo."
866-4FAN, 866-4326. We will talk with Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News later this hour. Brad in Rochester. What's up, Brad?
Hey, doesn't all this, if Travis fails, if he gets injured, doesn't it ultimately lead to a new song by Taylor Swift?
No, right. Maybe she's
got to have a negative song somewhere soon.
New material coming soon. The clock is ticking. How else will she go on a world tour if she doesn't have some heartbreak to write about? You're right. You're absolutely right. Or she takes up jujitsu. One of two things will happen. Maybe she takes up jujitsu.
Yeah.
We don't know. One of the two things could happen.
Kung fu fighting. Yeah, that'll work.
Thanks, Brad. Appreciate the call. Yeah, I just feel like him coming back is going to be a red flag for their relationship. You just get the sense, like, you don't have to work for the money anymore. I'm the wealthiest woman in the world, and you've done well for yourself.
It's funny, like Travis Kelce against the Bills. You think of so many games where he just dominated. The 13-second game, of course, being right at the top of the list. What happened last year? Like,
he was a zero.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I mean, look, if you want to take his word at face value that he is going to commit himself this offseason, work out harder than ever, and try to have a better season this year, I guess that's fine. But I have a hard time believing that you're going to be able to really, truly do that when you have the most popular woman in the world on your arm. There's a calendar of events that involves you not working out for a good chunk of the offseason. And we saw that last year. That was what we saw out of Kelce for most of the season. It was just kind of guy looked like he was a little out of shape. A year older, a little bit out of shape after living his best life.
Is she touring this year?
Nothing on the books right now, as far as I know.
Okay, that's a big difference. Like, if she's touring, okay, then he's got his career. She's got, I know she's got other things going around. I'm not, but the fact that she's not on the road the whole time, where she's setting up camp.
There's a bunch of jiu-jitsu instructors, though, that are licking their chops right now, Gino. They've seen this movie before.
Danger, be careful. I don't want her people, as once upon a time.
I didn't say anything negative. I'm Team Taylor on this one. I see the red flags. I see a lot of red flags out of Kelce's announcement today, and I'm actually hoping that it works out for the two of them.
It feels a lot of like Tom Brady and Giselle.
It feels very much like Brady and Giselle. Very much so. We'll get to Mike Hassan, who is the Rochester Nighthawks head coach. Nighthawks back in town tomorrow night, a Friday night at Blue Cross Arena. Albany the opponent. Looking forward to that, and looking forward to getting caught up with the Rochester Nighthawks head coach.
Yeah, as we will be talking some Bills later this hour, our buddy Alex Brasky, who we'll get his rating of Indianapolis. He was out at the Combine, and get his thoughts on what the Bills should do at number 30 and who he was talking to. So Alex Brasky, one of our insiders, we should ask him that. Like, he would never,
who's he taking down?
Who's he taking down?
Yeah, who's Brasky pairing up against in the squared circle? Brasky joins us before 5 o'clock. Mike Hassan, Rochester Nighthawks head coach, joining us next on The Fan.
You're listening. AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Nighthawks fans, head over to Blue Cross Arena Friday, February 28th at 7 p.m. as the Nighthawks take on the Albany Firewolves for Marvel Night, a Native American Heritage Night presented by Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino. Get your tickets at rochesternighthawks.com.
The Fan, Rochester. Sports Update.
Sabres looking to keep this rolling. They won their first two coming out of the break. Now they are on the road. Carolina is the opponent. This is a team they defeated back in January. Our coverage on the Fan Rochester tonight begins at 7 o'clock. Hamrick's back on the road tomorrow, looking to make it 5 in a row. They play at Utica. The Nighthawks back home, coming off a win over Calgary. Tomorrow night taking on Albany. We will talk to Mike Hazen, head coach, coming up next year in the Sports Bar. The NFL Combine continuing. Dane Brugler from The Athletic. High on a guy from Texas.
Say day two, a guy like Alfred Collins from Texas. Right. 6'5.5", 320 pounds. The arms are almost 35 inches. This guy is so disruptive versus the run. He sees it so well, powerful at the point of attack. We're going to get our safety here or whatever position they go in the first. Day two, round two, a guy like Alfred Collins. That's who I'm targeting.
Gene Battaglia, the sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan Rochester.
Shelf Sports Talk. You're hanging out in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
Albany comes to Blue Cross Arena Friday night, downtown to BCA for the Rochester Nighthawks. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to our conversation with head coach Mike Hazen, who's joining us now in the Sports Bar. Coach, thanks for making time for us. Your guys have had some strong performances this season. Just give us an overview, what the key has been here for the team's success.
Yeah, no, we've been a little bit up and down, but more recently than not, especially since we've been on the road here. We've had a lot of success. We're playing like it's the last game of the year for us, and that's kind of what we're focusing on. We're right in the middle of a big playoff push here with a lot of teams that's right around us, and we're just looking for some consistency. And following last week in Calgary, we played probably the most complete team game we have this year, and we're looking to carry that forward back home here tomorrow night.
Yeah, Calgary, the first time this franchise has ever gone up there and won last week. Mike, when you're talking about, all right, the playoff push kind of begins right now, how much experience do you draw on from last year? Because, this time around last year wasn't looking too good, but you did get in.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think it came down to the final weekend where we had a 3% chance of making it, and we did what we needed to do. And yeah, we are relying on that. We got a very similar core, actually just about the same core that we had last year for that push. And yeah, experience kind of, settles the nerves a little bit at that point here. We're, like I say, we're focusing one game at a time though. We gotta make sure that we're our best. And that's one thing that we're really keen on is just to make sure that consistency is in our game. And, we had a great one last week, as I just said. We're going to follow up here at home.
Rochester Nighthawks head coach Mike Hazen, our guest in the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia on the Fan Rochester. Albany, the opponent tomorrow night at Blue Cross Arena, 7:05 downtown. Coach, injuries every season will play a role. How has your team this season handled that adversity on the injury front?
Yeah, no, we've been nicked up, missing Danny Coates, our captain, and Ron Hartley for most of the season there. Hart's has been back. I think he's had 3 games under his belt again here, so he's just getting back into form. And you know what? It's the guys that jumped in there. Again, first and foremost, it's a great opportunity for some young kids to come in here. And Riley Hutchcraft, started our first 10 games for us and was good. He gave us a great opportunity to win every single night. So. A little more experience for him just gives us that benefit. If Hart's is going to struggle, that Riley can jump in there and do the job for us is big. And again, and Danny Coates being back again, that this is game 3 for him as well. He's our leader. We march to the beat of his drum. And to have him back, it's been good. It just sort of added a little bit of comfort, a little bit of patience, I guess, that's the lack of a better term right now, is that, we're not getting outside ourselves. He keeps us checked in and worrying about the moments that we got to face each shift. And having those 2 guys back for sure has been really good for our game lately. And again, we're still in the mix here for as much as those two guys mean to us being out. We're right in the middle of things here. Again, it's a good spot for us to be in.
Yeah, you brought up Rylan Hartley being back, the goaltender. He's 26, and for us casual fans, I'm familiar with the teams, but I'm not necessarily familiar with the personnel in the league. Where does Hartley compare in terms of his potential, where he's at right now, amongst his peers at goaltender in this league, Coach?
Yeah, Rylan he's got the potential to be elite. He's had some injury troubles with us, but at every other level he's won championships. And when he's on like he was last week, he's on, and he's the big reason why we won against Calgary last week. Is that he was really dialed in, he was really focused, and we just sort of follow his lead. He is. Talk about individual. He's a different individual. He keeps our room light, but once it's time to go, don't get in his way because he's going to do anything to get that win and make that save. And again, great week last week. Hopefully he has that same focus, same week for us against Albany.
Coach, I know it's one game at a time mentality here when you're heading into this next stretch of games. Are there any matchups that you maybe have circled as games that you have to win?
You know what? Just about all of them, to tell you the truth. If we can do that, we're in a real good spot for not just necessarily making the playoffs, but again, one of our goals is to get a home playoff date. That's what we're striving for. So if we can get everyone along the way, that'd be perfect. This one against Albany is huge for us. Again, just being away from Blue Cross for just over a month now, to come back and again, just get settled back into home is a great opportunity for us to do that against a really good team. And then it's kind of circled back a little bit more ahead. We do have a back-to-back with Ottawa where we're there and then they come to us. And I think those will be two real big games and key to our push for playoffs here for sure.
What can you tell us? Okay, so the Amherst at 5-7, Albany at 3-8, but you need everyone. You kind of, I'm sure Albany is thinking the same thing, that hey, we want to keep our season alive and their playoffs are beginning. What can you tell us about Friday night's opponents here, Coach?
Yeah, you know what? Again, they're in the exact same position that we are, and for a team that was in the finals last year in Albany, they expected to be a lot better. But yeah, they're. Like every team in this league, they are going to be a handful for us. They have, you asked me about goaltending where Rylan fits. They have an elite goaltender in Doug Jamieson. He is definitely one of the better ones. Defensively, they're high tempo, high pressure, and offensively, they move that ball around and they zip and they shoot from anywhere. So we got to be on point. For us, we always talk about. Moving our feet downhill, which means we want to play with a lot of pace. We want to put their defense on their heels, and we want to make sure we get opportunities to shoot that ball against Dougie and make the most of our opportunities for sure.
Nighthawks head coach Mike Hasten, our guest in the Sports Bar, Danger and Battaglia. Albany in town tomorrow night at Blue Cross Arena just after 7 o'clock downtown. Coach, let's talk a little bit about that fan base. I feel like when we talk to you or anybody within the organization, any of your players, it's got to be a boost knowing that you have...
Yeah, he was here. Like, when you're looking at the Nighthawks back in the day, Coach, from 99, how are we coming along as far as getting back to where we were last decade when you were here for the heyday?
You know what? It's we're building towards that. You know what? That's the one thing. When we were playing, back when we had some success back in 12, 13, and 14 with the original Nighthawks. If we come out with our best effort and we're winning games, this is one of the better arenas to play in because again, it's such a knowledgeable fan base. And they're loud and they're proud, and they don't hold anything back. Especially when we're winning. When we're losing, they remind us, to get back accountable. But for me, if what we do on the floor is so important to make sure those fans come back, and we're getting there. That's the one thing about our group is that we're going to battle for 60 minutes. Still a young group, still trying to figure our way. how to have that successful team in this league, because this league is the best lacrosse league in the world. And every night's a battle, and we're battling for 60 minutes. And again, the more wins we can get under our belts, we know they're going to come out and, again, be loud and proud like we want them to be, because it helps. It really does help our cause.
Mike, the one thing I would request, your team store have jerseys. I went in in December, there weren't any that. Well, I guess it's maybe just me. Maybe I just need to lose a little weight there, because there wasn't many. But if you can kind of pass that on, then hey, there's some of us that want to buy some team gear here.
No, they're duly noted then. We'll make sure we're all stuck up here sooner rather than later.
All right.
Mike, appreciate the time this afternoon. Best of luck tomorrow night. We'll be rooting for you and your guys against Albany there at Blue Cross Arena.
Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity and the time.
You got it.
Thanks, Mike Hazen.
Mike Hazen is the head coach of the Rochester Nighthawks, who are back in town and at Blue Cross Arena tomorrow night against Albany.
There are certain things you got to do in this town. You can't take the Red Wings, you can't take the Amerks for granted, or you can't take the Nighthawks for granted. And every time I go to a Nighthawk game, I'm like, oh, you know what? That was a fun night out.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're going into, like the music, the action, physicality.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is invigorating, and he just said it. I mean, this is the best lacrosse league in the world. So we have a team in the best lacrosse league in the world. I don't take that for granted. I think that's pretty cool. And they've got an opportunity here to make a push for the postseason, similar to how they did last year. I'm expecting a little bit more, get that incremental growth. Their goal is to host a playoff game this year. I would love to see that happen.
I'm wondering if we're going to have a new owner at some point. Because we did have that report at the end of last year, and I'm not sounding any alarms. The report was false, by the way, that the Nighthawks had a new owner. But what's not false is that, okay, if you called Terry Pegula and said, hey, Terry, can I have the team? At what point does that happen?
Well, they got out of the arena. They're not involved in the operation of the arena anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They still have the teams, right? They're still involved with the Amerks, still involved with the Nighthawks, but for how much longer? And that conflict of you have the Nighthawks and you have the Bandits, and you own both of those teams. I know that they don't really say that that's an issue or a conflict of interest, but yeah, come on, let's see if we can get.
Well,
somebody else.
I go back to it's a beautiful September day. It's a little on the warmer side, and what makes this day unique is Terry and Kim Pegula on the banks of the Genesee are giving a press conference, which I think that might have been the last time we had the two giving a press conference together, as they've been named the new owners of the Rochester Nighthawks. And Terry Pegula, in the opening comments, calls this a donation for Rochester.
To make this donation. Well, that donation has carried us probably as far as he wants it to carry us, and we've got a team. They're competitive. They're a lot of fun. Worse nights out than spending one with the Nighthawks at Blue Cross Arena tomorrow night against Albany.
Hazen was downplaying Hartley. They have a goaltender. You want to pump the tires of the guys that were filling in, but if Hartley stays healthy, that will help this team. And if they can figure this out, that's my Nighthawk take for today.
Let's get to Alex Brasky, fresh from Indianapolis, the NFL Scouting Combine, covering the team for the Batavia Daily News and, of course, Bills Digest. Our buddy Brasky will be our ears and eyes to let us know everything that we learned this week. Recap Sean McDermott and Brandon Beane's time with the media and some of the other storylines around the Buffalo Bills. Brasky next on The Fan.
Kenneth Grant from Michigan is the one that really stands out because he looks like a nose, and he does execute two-gap techniques. He can be a boulder in the middle of that line, but at the same time, you see the quickness, and I hope he tests here at the Combine because he is going to blow it up at 340 pounds. His speed, his quickness, and so he's still figuring things out as a pass rusher if that first move doesn't work, but he has the traits, he has the ability, and that's why I think there's a chance he doesn't make it to the end of the first round because he's just such a freaky talent. You don't see guys like that very often, but he would be that guy on the defensive line.
Draft analyst Dane Brugler earlier today at One Bills Live with Tasker and Bronny. We welcome you back into the Sports Bar. It's Danger and Battaglia. Glad you're with us and listening along. And we're not in Indianapolis, but we have some of our friends who are. And to be our ears and eyes at the NFL Scouting Combine, we welcome in from Bills Digest and the Batavia Daily News, Alex Brasky. Buddy, how's your week been so far?
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me. It's been a bit long. A lot of walking in Indianapolis. I feel like I've walked the equivalent of the Boston Marathon over the past 4 days, and wind's whipping today, but it is pretty warm here, and vibes are good, so not much to complain about aside from maybe a little bit too much energy spent on my end.
Vibes are good, but we've got insider on insider arguments happening there in Indianapolis, Brasky. I mean, within Bills media, we don't have any sort of pettiness or cattiness like we're seeing out of Schultz and Rappaport, right?
Oh, there's a little bit here and there, like you get with anybody that you spend a lot of time around. It's nothing too heinous, however, not to the level that it seemed it got with Rappaport and Schultz having NFL security get involved, but I'd like to see how that one would have played out. At Rappaport, a smaller guy, I'm a smaller guy. We like to use leverage and fight dirty, so that could have been an interesting tussle to watch.
Alex Brasky, who we had penciled in Monday, but you said, hey, McDermott's going to go here at 4, and I don't know when it'll end. And sure enough, Sean McDermott, because he's on McDermott time, we couldn't put you on Monday. But if we go back to the beginning of the week, Alex, what did you make of the comments regarding Keon Coleman? Is McDermott putting him on notice here?
I think it's just a little bit of coaching from McDermott's point of view. I think with a young player like that, I don't think it's anything too pressing or anything that they're worried about in terms of long term, but I certainly don't think that they like the way that he came back from the injury. There was also, I believe, a report that he missed a meeting as well this season, or was late to a meeting, something to that effect. So there's certainly some immaturity there from Coleman this season. I think that's all it really was, just a coach and a GM kind of doing some coaching through the media that you see these guys do occasionally throughout the year and in the off season, just to help motivate their guys. And you saw it similarly done with Dalton Kincaid during the postseason press conference, talking about how he needs to add weight, this, that, and the other thing. So I think with young players, you just like to, I think, keep them on notice is a good way of putting it. I don't think they're upset with him by any means, but certainly there could have been a little bit better job done by Coleman in certain respects this season.
Alex, another Bills wide receiver getting paid through an extension, talking about Khalil Shakir. While I think the deal is a great deal, not an overpay, feels just right, and will look like a value here as the wide receiver market explodes over the next couple of seasons, the Bills can't be satiated with Khalil Shakir and Keon Coleman. They're not done at this position, correct?
I would hope not. Based on the way things went last year with Curtis Samuel, I'm not sure what you're going to get from him moving forward. Hopefully you get more than you got this past season. I know some injury trouble at the start of the season may have held him back. But, yeah, you need to add to this group, whether it be through the draft, whether it be through free agency. I just don't think that there's enough firepower there, and it kind of reared its head in that Kansas City Chiefs game. There was times where receivers were unable to get open down the field, and I really think you need to add somebody with matchup breaking potential that they were looking for with Keon Coleman in terms of his leaping ability. But I think you need to find a separator, somebody who can win one-on-one and get open in small spaces. I think that's what the Bills are missing the most. And I think free agency is where I would go if I were looking to acquire a wide receiver to bolster that unit. And maybe even beyond free agency, someone to keep an eye on, I think, Davante Adams. I saw that one sportsbook had the Bills' odds of getting Davante Adams up there, and it just sparked my interest. I think the Jets are going to release him. I don't see them holding on to him making the money that he is going through a rebuild. So if Davante Adams gets let go, if I'm the Bills, I'd be mighty, mighty interested to see what his thoughts are and coming to Buffalo on perhaps a team-friendly deal, trying to win a Super Bowl as a long-standing veteran.
Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, and also the Right Here, Right Now podcast. Alex, rank them 1, 2, and 3. The needs for the Buffalo Bills entering this draft are?
Defensive tackle, number 1. Cornerback, number 2. And probably edge rusher, number 3. I did my Bills Digest. I actually did this where I went through each position group and ranked their needs, and it isn't coming to mind right now where exactly I had them ranked, so I'm hoping that what I just said falls in line with what I wrote. But I would look to those 3 positions. Also, on the offensive side, we discussed wide receiver. I think that's another position that they should look at. But I'd really, really be interested in a defensive tackle if I'm the Bills. You've heard plenty about Kenneth Grant. He didn't work out today due to a hamstring injury that popped up during his medical evaluation at the Combine. But 340 pounds, he can really move sideline to sideline. That's a player that the Bills would love to get their hands on in the draft. And another player that I saw work out today, Oregon's Derek Harmon. I don't claim to be a draft guru, but he ran a 4.97 40-yard dash. So this is another big man who can move, and I think the Bills would benefit greatly from either Grant or Harmon's services. And I think Harmon has a better chance of falling to them at 30. Grant might go before that.
Yeah, I mean, Harmon known for his versatility and disruptive on the line as well. Grant, of course, that run stopper that didn't get the chance to work out. Alex Brasky, our ears and eyes at the scouting combine. So, Alex, paint a picture for us, man, because you mentioned that some of these guys are working out. The linemen are running their 40 times. And how much of this are you able to see? Are you able to see any of it as somebody covering the team? The Bills obviously there and concerned with medicals and maybe meeting with some of these prospects. What is this like covering the NFL scouting combine, and how much access do you actually get?
Yeah, it's pretty decent access. You get to watch the workouts from the stands at Lucas Oil Stadium down in the 100 level. You get to talk to each individual prospect that's scheduled to speak from the podium. There's scrums there throughout the week. They do position groups on different days. Also, a big benefit of the combine is the head coach and GM and sometimes the owner of teams speak at the podium as well. So that's obviously a big benefit, getting their thoughts leading into the combine, leading into the draft, and heading into the new league year that's set to begin on March 12th. Yeah, it's fairly good access. The NFL isn't known for really giving out heaps of access to media, but I would say the Combine is one of the more accessible events of the NFL schedule in terms of media availability and content that you're able to get out of this each year. Now, this is my first year here, so I'm just learning this, but Mark Gaughan, one of my friends on the Bills beat, he told me right when I started one of our first conversations, he says, you got to get to the Combine. It can last, the content that you can churn out at the Combine can last you for weeks in terms of a newspaper or magazine writer such as myself. So definitely good access, and it's a really nice setup that they have with Lucas Oil Stadium and the Convention Center just about a half mile away. It is a bit of a hike, but it beats driving to and from different locations.
Yeah, as you're there this week, you were there on Monday for head coach Sean McDermott, and then Brandon Beane on Tuesday. And, Alex, not to put words in your mouth, but certainly one of the top storylines for Beane is where do we go here? Well, that's just the question this way. Where do we go here with the negotiation for James Cook? Because my opinion, the more I think about this, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Bills actually, if they got the right offer, they would actually move James Cook.
Yeah, I think they want James Cook back. I think history has told us that this team does not pay running backs on their second contract, but I think if they're able to get him back at an acceptable number, I think that is the ideal situation for the Bills. I don't think that they are eager to move on from James Cook. This is the second most talented playmaker, in my opinion, on the offense outside of Josh Allen. And running backs are kind of coming back, making a comeback in this league. You see Saquon Barkley, what he did for the Eagles this year, really transforming their offense, and what the Bills are trying to do offensively, running those heavy sets, using more running game. You need a guy like James Cook. Now, his percentage of snaps, I think, is what sticks out to me. He's not a heavy percentage guy. He comes off the field on third down pretty regularly, and in that Chiefs game, he missed a block on that final drive. I believe I was talking with, I think it was Joe Marino, who pointed this out to me, that his pass protection is just simply an issue. So I think there are some sticking points there that make you hesitant to pay him the $15 million that he wants. But when you look at his value to the team, I think if you're the Bills, you have to do whatever you can to try to get him down on that number and bring him back. Now, if you can get him at $10 to $12 million, I think that would be the wheelhouse for me, in my opinion. I know that there's some gymnastics that have to be done with the salary cap still. For Brandon Beane, he does have a little bit more room with the salary cap announced today, I think $279 million. But I think the ideal situation for the Bills is getting James Cook back. I don't think that it's not on their minds as of yet to trade James Cook. I don't think they're on the same page in terms of the number. Brandon Beane said earlier this week that just because they aren't on the same page now doesn't mean they won't be later. So I think they're going to still work toward working out that deal with Cook and keeping him in Buffalo for the long term. But you mentioned a good point. If they're not able to reach that agreement, I think you have to get some sort of value out of the player and perhaps move him before the season, especially if you get a hint that he's going to hold out for training camp or to begin the regular year.
Alex, you mentioned it. The salary cap was announced by the NFL. Teams will have $279.2 million per. And the Bills find themselves here today in a little bit of trouble. They're 30th out of 32 teams, and they're approximately 10.3-ish over the cap on their top 51 players. So if you're Brandon Beane, you've probably already taken step one. I mean, we saw Shakir get extended, and there are probably extensions in the hands of other pending free agents or players that are going to be playing on expiring contracts next season. What do you think the checklist is here for Beane to not only get cap compliant, but to also, look at what money they can allocate to a player like James Cook?
Yeah, I think the first order of business is obviously what are you going to do with Von Miller? Set to make, I believe, over $23 million in 2025, none of which is guaranteed. So if you cut bait with him before June 1st, that would save the team $8.4 million against the salary cap. So that's obviously step one. You have to either get him to take the pay cut like he did this past year, or you're going to have to cut bait with him. There's no way you can keep Von Miller around making the kind of money that he's set to make this year. So I think if you're able to get him down and perhaps turn a lot of that contract into incentive-based money, I think that could help you greatly. And then secondly, I think the Josh Allen contract is the second thing. I think he's due for an extension, and he's making well below market value. Dak Prescott recently signed a deal that will pay him nearly $60 million per season, and Josh Allen set to make $14.5 million in 2025. So I think there's something that needs to be done there. And while he's probably going to see an increase in salary, I think there's some gymnastics that you can do there to potentially get yourself in a better situation currently and maybe push some of that money down the road when he may be in a better cap situation. But with that said, per Joe Biscaglia of The Athletic, I read his article a few weeks ago. He says he believes that the most probable course of action for the Bills is to convert all but $14 million, or all but the veteran minimum of Allen's $14 million base salary into a prorated signing bonus, adding a void year for 2029. So I think there's a lot that can be done with Josh Allen's contract. I already mentioned Von Miller. And then Ed Oliver is another one who I think they need to take a look at. He took a step back this past season. He's set to cost Buffalo over $20 million against the cap in 2025 and beyond. So I think in a perfect world, you're able to get Miller down, keep him around, do what you can with Allen, and get Oliver restructured. And if you're able to do that, that could possibly create about $10, $15, $20 million in cap relief, and that would give you a good place to start before you go to some other players in terms of Deion Dawkins, Dawson Knox, and some others that you might want to restructure.
Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, right here, right now podcast. Last one for me, Alex, and it's about the safety position. And are the Bills ready to just make Cole Bishop the starter here? Because we saw some, but certainly not enough. DeMar Hamlin, where do you come down on him? Because if we're going over the needs here, could that actually be a sneaky need if they see a safety they like at number 30?
Yeah, I think that Cole Bishop is going to have to prove himself in this offseason and leading into the year. I think they liked what they saw from Bishop throughout the course of the season. A few hiccups, allowing that deep ball, I think it was in the Texans game, which Brandon Beane mentioned during his time at the podium this week. And both he and McDermott are kind of on the same page as they typically are, with a lot of opportunity in front of Cole Bishop, but still has yet to, I think, firmly plant himself as the surefire starter entering the season. And as far as DeMar Hamlin's concerned, the way that Brandon Beane talked about him during his time at the podium, it makes me feel that Hamlin's going to go out and try to get a good contract after performing as a starter this past season and performing adequately. He wasn't a star by any means, but a decent player for the Bills defense and made his fair share of plays. So I think he's going to go out and try to get some money. If he's not able to do so, maybe we see him back in Buffalo. If I'm the Bills, I'd like to bring him back, obviously, in a reserve role, just as insurance in case Bishop isn't able to firmly plant himself as the starter. But we'll see what happens there. Bishop, a long way to go still before he earns that starting role. And then, of course, DeMar Hamlin, there's also a lot of decisions to be made in that case.
Alex Brasky collecting weeks, months of content at the NFL Scouting Combine. Let everybody know about the work you're doing, Alex, and where we can get more of it.
Yeah, Bills Digest just released the pre-draft issue, or not pre-draft issue, free agency issue. Pre-draft issue is coming up, I think, later this month. I got to check the dates, but free agency issue. We really break down the Bills' 12 unrestricted free agents. We talk about free agents around the league, who the Bills may target, and I mentioned before kind of the needs that the Bills have entering this offseason. Also within that issue, we discussed Josh Allen's MVP season, some photos from the year, and the NFL honors. So maybe something for Bills fans to hold on to and look back on years from now. And also the dailynewsonline.com, keeping that up to date as well. Bills coverage has slowed a little bit. And then also right here, right now, live Buffalo Football Talk. Sorry, that was a little bit long-winded.
No, that's fine. And then, right here, right now, watched you Sunday night with Bruce Nolan. You had Greg Thompson. I'm just saying, though, if you ever need a guy, Alex.
Listen, Gene, you're on the docket, and I told you should have barged into the
while you're on the air
after the game. You should have done it. That was your opportunity. You missed it, and now we're going to have to find another one for you.
Wow. Alex, you never walk in with a light on. I was never going to do that to you, bud.
Hey, we're friends, Gene. You can do anything. You can get away with it in my book.
Gene will be doing the step walking downstairs bit that McDermott played on Fates and Catalan earlier.
What did you make of that? Like Sean McDermott, yucking it up there a little bit there. Is there a different McDermott we don't see, Alex?
He's turning into a different McDermott over the past year, I'll tell you that. You heard plenty of that this year. I think there were a couple stories written about it, the players talking about it as well. He's certainly making a concerted effort to appear more jovial and, friendly, I should say, with the media. I think that's not always been the case. I think there's been a little bit of some contentious moments with McDermott in the media over the years, but I think over this past year, something clicked with him that I think he's making, like I said, a concerted effort to be a little bit more open, be a little bit more friendly, and show his lighter side, his sense of humor, and I think that's good to see for the Bills head coach.
Alex, enjoy the rest of your time in Indy, bud. We'll talk to you when you get back.
Thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks,
There's Alex Brasky, Batavia Daily News, Bills Digest, right here, right now, busy in Indianapolis, covering the Buffalo Bills at the NFL Scouting Combine.
Yeah, gosh, wouldn't it be nice, though, if you could fill those needs and not have to worry about, I mean, I agree with him. Defensive tackle, yes. Like, if you keep pick number 30, that would be kind of the logical place to go to. You're going to need an edge rusher, and you're going to need another corner. Can the Bills fill all those needs in free agency? I'm not so sure.
Steve Palazzolo, Pro Football Focus, joined Tasker and Brownie earlier today. Says double up on the defensive line. Why not?
I love those flexible guys. I think for a double up move, though, just the defensive line in general. We know there's certain games where I think Buffalo feels like they feel light up front and they could use that big body nose. I feel like that's been one of those every year somebody would love to see more consistency as far as the big 320 plus pounder there. So I think there's value there. And you can literally never have too many edge rushers, especially if you are going to move them around and create mismatches. So I think the double up on the defensive line in this particular draft with 3 picks in the top 62 does make a lot of sense.
Now, the Bills did this once. Well, you don't have to go back very far, and it didn't work. Greg Rousseau. Okay, for an end of first-round pick, yes. We're all nodding. Sure. We want him to take it up even more, but certainly not a bust, not by any stretch. He's been good for Buffalo. The guy the Bills went to back in the second round, Boogie Basham.
Yeah, that didn't work.
No. Flushed out of Buffalo after 2 years.
We got happy hour. We're in happy hour. Man,
yes,
time
sir.
is flying this afternoon. You can join us at 866-4326-5858, 664-FAN. We'll get to a round of shots. We'll get to head coach Ed Raby, St. John Fisher football, new St. John Fisher football head coach, joining us here before 6 o'clock as well. You're in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia on the Fan.
HD2 Rochester and streaming online and in the Odyssey app at The Fan Rochester. The sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950. The Fan Rochester, an Odyssey sports station. The Fan Rochester Sports Update.
Hockey tonight for the Buffalo Sabres. They're on the road in Raleigh, North Carolina, taking on the Hurricanes. The Hurricanes tonight wearing the Hartford Whalers throwback gear. Our coverage will begin at 7 o'clock here on the Fan Rochester. The Combine continuing in Indianapolis. Cynthia Freeland today on One Bills Live, talking about what the Bills might do at break 30.
I actually think that the corner from Michigan could be available there.
Will John? Really?
Yeah, I think he could. It's possible. I really like him. The good news for the Bills is, like, you don't need some of the things other people need. So that gives you some freedom.
Meanwhile, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce planning on returning in 2025. The Rochester Nighthawks in need of wins. They did get one in Calgary last week. They're home tomorrow night against Albany. The RIT men tomorrow night, one-game playoff against AIC. The women begin a series at Penn State. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, the Fan Rochester.
The Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia.
Do you think the Combine's time has passed?
Are you red or are you blue? Are you a dog or are you a cat?
Penn State pass rusher Abdul Carter has been advised against surgery for now after a stress reaction in his right foot was found.
The biggest oxymoron in sports, legal tampering.
Mike Danger.
Right. And how much of that is already happening right now? Like, right now. Are they having those conversations? Yes, it's happening. It's happening right now.
Gene Battaglia.
Defensive line is the number one need. I would listen to corner. I would listen to a safety if you felt like somebody could step in there right away.
And a wide receiver.
Another variable here, Danger. Hey, we're just going to draft the best guy and develop. No. I don't want to hear the D word. It's win now.
We do have Jalen Milroe.
Amherst, Sabres, Nighthawks.
We remember the life of Gene Hackman.
95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
It's DeLorean putting himself in there with Amherst Sabres Nighthawks? Is that?
Was that it? I don't know if that was DeLorean. Who was that?
That was DeLorean. Like DeLorean, you can put yourself, you create the open. You can do whatever you want.
Yeah,
But
sure. We give DeLorean a little minute there of creative license in the sports bar. We welcome you back to happy hour. Later this hour, Ed Raby, new head coach, St. John Fisher football, will be stopping by the sports bar before we close up shop. We'll get to a round of shots as well. And we have time for your calls if you want to pull up a stool and join us at 866-4FAN, 585-866-4326.
So as far as the Bills news, where today on Thursday, it seems like, okay, now we're just kind of settling in and we're looking at these defensive line prospects and defenders and where the Bills' needs are. If you missed that conversation with Alex Brasky, that was kind of fantastic. And gosh, Danger, I'm just kind of wondering, it feels like we're doing a lot of homework on this draft that you might not need. Meaning, hey, if the Bills fans get their wish, you don't have pick 30. It's gone in a package to Cleveland for Myles Garrett. I think that's where I'm at here. But if the Bills had to stay at number 30, who's the best defensive lineman on the board? And that seems to be, I would think here on February 27th, what the Buffalo Bills would do.
The NFL set their salary cap, and this goes partially into what we're discussing here in terms of their availability to sign free agents or make trades for players like Myles Garrett. It's $279.2 million per team, an increase of $23.8 million from last season's cap. Where are the Bills as of right now? A little over $10 million over the cap. They are ranked 30th out of 32 teams in terms of cap space going into free agency. So clearly the Bills have a lot of moves to make here to address the overage. And I believe they've probably started on those moves, whether it be just negotiating some of these extensions or restructures, specifically with Josh Allen. We saw Shakir get his extension earlier this week. But I don't know if you're Brandon Beane, if you can really be that active in pursuit of these guys unless you know, okay, who are we keeping, who are we getting at what price, because bringing in a Myles Garrett is going to require making him a very, very highly paid player.
Well, you can do this in a few ways. First of all, the way they measure this, it's the top 51. So anybody you draft presumably is not going to really creep up and alter it all that much. Number two on the Bills' cap hit list this year behind Josh Allen, that would be Von Miller. Von Miller, you're going to eat some dead cap here, no doubt, $15 million. But if you do the move, that's $8 million saved. what world does Von Miller say, I'm going to come back here for pretty much just a little more than the veteran minimum?
Right.
I don't see this. If I had to make a prediction, the Bills move on from Von Miller, and Von Miller will go back to where he started, helping a young Denver Bronco team. I think that would make a lot of sense, and I don't think that should scare anybody. Von Miller's 36. Von Miller, when he came in, gave you a good 10 games. So did it work out? Ultimately, no, but I appreciate taking the chance there on somebody who will be a Hall of Famer. So I'm not worried about it all that much because that's move number one. And then move number two is give Josh Allen the contract. And the contract's not going to cost you. That would actually save you money this year by paying out the bonus. So, sure, Josh Allen, new contract, Von Miller. Are there any other veterans on this team that you could possibly move on? Do you bring back Daquan Jones? I'm not so sure.
The dead cap hit, if the Bills were to move on from Miller, $15.4 million, but they would save the $8.4 million off of their cap. And any of the incentives that he earned in 2024 factor into the adjusted salary cap for this season for the Buffalo Bills.
Right. So do we remember Week 18 against New England? Yay, there's Von Miller getting a sack. No.
Yeah.
But that's what we do in Buffalo.
I think it was 6 sacks, gets him up to $4 million was what it was, something like that. So, that feels like an easy adjustment to make if you're Brandon Beane, and we'll kind of stand by and wait here over the course of the next couple of weeks to see exactly what direction the team goes as far as extending guys, moving on from guys, and preparing for the start of free agency here in the middle of March.
Yeah, as you're looking down the list here, it's not like I see other. Oh yeah, that's the area. Like Tre'Davious White was pretty obvious, even though that was ultimately it was a cap hit that you had to spread out over 2 years. That was something the Bills needed to do. Compared to this time last year, there's not going to be this day that was like the Red Wedding where like, oh my gosh, the Bills let go of all these players. No, I think that the Von Miller news will happen. Maybe there'll be somebody else. Dawson Knox is kind of an interesting one that I think Dawson Knox, Danger, you actually try to restructure just a little bit. So there are some guys that you could go back to and say, hey, can you help us out? And he might be one of those guys knowing that, all right, he's kind of a Buffalo guy.
As far as the NFL scouting combine, got a report from Alex Brasky, the Batavia Daily News, and Bills Digest last hour. But really, why do we want to talk about the prospects? Why do we want to talk about what teams are doing? We should talk about insider on insider violence, Gene. It's too good.
I think it's a bigger story because wherever you've worked, maybe it's a competitive somebody else that you get in an altercation from and you're an adult. The idea, story in a nutshell. Jordan Schultz, who we've had on the show before, reported, and there's nothing wrong with this report. It was just the way.
It's a lot of color.
He's
adding a lot of color to his report. So he has to be pretty sure about what he's reporting. He has to know Stafford went skiing with Tom Brady.
Yeah.
In Montana.
Right. And nobody said that's not true. It's just under what premise. And then Ian Rappaport, then a little bit after that, basically shooting down the report, saying that no one is trying to actively recruit and putting that in finger quotes. Okay, to me, that's kind of a hostile move. So if you're Schultz, apparently he confronted Rappaport.
He had a problem with it.
Yeah.
He had a problem with it. And I think he reached out to him, but they actually got face-to-face and in each other's faces with some expletives thrown back and forth. I think Rappaport held off on the expletives. Reportedly, Schultz was basically, you and I have an effing problem. We have a problem. This is going to be a problem. But NFL security had to get involved. I mean, like, this wasn't a zero. These two guys are yelling at each other for a minute with this altercation inside, the irony of this, inside a Starbucks. By the way, Jordan Schultz, the son of Starbucks founder and former CEO, Howard Schultz.
That's just a layer. I've got the Rappaport tweet. Danger, you tell me if this is a reason to throw down, okay? This is Ian Rappaport. Raiders minority owner Tom Brady and Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford ran into each other at a ski resort in Montana. Sources say the meeting, unplanned, was not extensive or in-depth and did not include Brady, quote, hosting or, again, finger quote, recruiting Stanford, despite reports saying otherwise. He didn't need to put the finger quotes in there. That's a dig. And good for Schultz to say, hey, dude.
I trust my sources.
Right. There was no reason to do that.
Unless he's making it up. Unless Schultz is making it up. But
I don't think
he is either. Yeah, I relate. Like what we know of both of these guys is that they're good at their jobs, right? I think they're both very good at their jobs.
So, Schultz brought up a good point. You mean to tell me, hey, I'm Tom Brady skiing down. Oh, my gosh. Hey, Matthew, what are you doing here?
Hey, bud.
How are you doing, bud? Oh, my gosh, I heard the Rams won. How's that going?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you mean to tell me that happened legitimately in Montana?
Right. Yeah. Probably not.
Why not just say Bristol Mountain? Okay, we're going to go that way.
Probably not. There's a part of this with Rappaport that I feel like as an employee of the NFL, maybe he was downplaying the specificity of the Schultz report, because a lot of us, myself included, saw the Schultz report and said, how is that not tampering? Well, it's not tampering because the Rams gave Stafford permission to go out and test his value, to go see what he's worth. But the NFL actually had to put out like a statement saying, no, this isn't tampering. And Rappaport kind of dialing back the actual like detail that went into the Schultz report, because as soon as I saw it, I'm like, that's not tampering? It sure looks like tampering. And the NFL doesn't want to have anything to do with the word tampering. Their lawyers don't want to have to deal with any of it. Nobody wants to deal with that.
Well, see, the thing I'm fuzzy about is this. We hear this all the time. Cole Beasley. Oh, yeah, I want to be traded. Okay, you know what, Cole? Go find something. Okay, does his agent have to report back to the Bills? Does his agent have to say, hey, we're going to talk to, or did they just kind of go over and do what they want? Like, it's a little different from a receiver that's at the end of his career to a quarterback that, mind you, has seen better days, but my gosh, he's still going to offer somebody, and if he's actually available, he's the top quarterback available, being Matthew Stafford. So does his representation owe it to the Rams? Was that part of this? Did the Rams learn about this through Jordan Schultz? And did there in the league office get a call like, hey, let's tone this down? Because if there's one thing I know about Los Angeles, Danger, what town is it? Still is a Raider town. Raiders haven't played there since the 1990s. But to me, they are the most the Rams won a Super Bowl. I swear to you, there's more Raider fans than Ram fans. I could be wrong on that.
Raiders are still more popular in Los Angeles.
Yeah, that would be like the last. The more I think about it, it's like, yeah, no, we're gonna we'd love to send you to the Giants. We don't want to send you to Mark Davis. Come on, we didn't want to share a stadium with that guy. We're not gonna help him out.
Yeah, right. That's interesting. Well, it begs the question. I mean, if the Bills beat reporters got into a scrum, like who do you got? Like we had Matthew earlier saying, hey, look, if there is ever a Bills media scrum, I mean, Sal Mayorana is going to be the guy that you know, the veteran, the guy that's going to go out there and play a little bit dirty, get after it a little bit, kind of like that. Perino's got the MMA background. I wouldn't want to mess with him.
Oh. No.
But although Perino, much like the scene in Anchorman, no touching of the hair or face. The TV guys, he's not a TV guy, but he's kind of a TV guy.
Talbot is like a gentle giant. Nicest guy that so is Perino, but like Brian is like the sweet guy, but I would think you wouldn't want to cross Ryan Talbot though. So no, I wouldn't.
Talbot probably has a mean streak.
Probably.
Yeah. It's buried deep inside. But if that mean streak comes out, I wouldn't want anything to do with Talbot. Talbot could run you. You said Tim Graham earlier. Tim Graham's the guy you wouldn't want to mess with.
Tim Graham is on
veteran
record.
Guy.
Yeah, and he's the guy that would call you. If he's got a problem, or he would tweet about it. I don't have to tell you this. Tim Graham and Mike Harrington hate each other. Hate each other. And they were on the same staff.
Petty media.
Petty media. And can I pull up this quote? I love Bart Winkler. Bart Winkler, he's one of us, right? Infinity Sports Network. And I think he hit this right on the head here, Danger. Give me 1 second here. Is Bart, he takes to Facebook probably more than I would. And, of course, I can't find it. But his quote was this. Basically, it was, people in sports media want to be respected by everyone, even though we can't respect the people that we want the respect from. If that makes sense.
How explain that to me? So we're it's almost like the thirst for validation.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
it's a constant thirst.
Constant thirst for validation. And if you're not getting the respect from your colleagues, as Jordan Schultz did not get his respect from his colleague, you get in his face.
I have it now. Sports media is a profession where everyone wants to be in. Sports media is a profession where everyone in it wants to be liked and respected by their peers. Peers that they themselves neither like nor respect.
That's a great take. It's a great take.
And, you and I come from different backgrounds.
Right.
Right. And we're doing this show early on, and we get done with the show, and you would see me pissed off about something. You're like, what do you care? Why do you care? Like, you were kind of quizzing me. I had a little bit of that, and I probably still do.
Yeah, well,
maybe like, why do you care?
Well, there's a competitive nature that everybody has. We're talking about sports, so it's hard not to have that. But I also think with what, to bring it back to what Winkler is saying there, and I love what he's saying there, I actually don't have a problem with the guys that we talk to, the Bills media, beyond the people that we just talked to on the show. I do like and respect the people that cover this team. I don't have any personal problems with any of them because I don't know most of them on that level. So I don't get the pettiness that we see from time to time between media members, like what we're seeing in Indianapolis between these two. But I love that Winkler. That's a great way of putting it. That if you're in sports media, you want to be liked and respected.
Sports media, the profession where everyone in it wants to be liked and respected by their peers. Peers that they themselves neither like nor respect.
So great. He's right. He's absolutely right.
But why is that? Because I don't need you to like me.
It's an insecurity.
But the respect thing.
An insecurity and a thirst. Thirst for validation. We've got to get to shots.
We do.
It's happy hour.
What do you think about the whale tonight, Danger?
I was very excited to hear that, Gino. In fact,
do they play that?
I mean, I would hope so, but that is the hottest of hot uniform talk. Whenever you tell me that the...
I was going to say, that is not the whaler dance.
No,
no,
it is not. But if we're talking about the whale making an appearance in Carolina tonight, yeah, that deserves some hot uniform talk.
Keep that rolling because we also have an update. This story involving Joy Taylor.
Not hot uniform talk, but I get what you're saying, Gino. I get what you're saying. If we're talking about her, all right. Get to a round of shots. Oh, and I'm sure Ed Raby's standing by. Just I can't wait to talk to these knuckleheads. St. John Fisher new St. John Fisher head football coach Ed Raby stopping by before 6 o'clock as well here on the Fan.
Sports Update.
Sabres hit the road tonight. They're in Carolina. Our coverage will begin at 7 here on The Fan. The Amherst, 2 games on the road this weekend. First up is Utica tomorrow night. It'll be Andrew Mossbrooks on the calls this weekend here for us. The Combine continuing out in Indianapolis. Dane Brugler is from The Athletic, and he's high on one defensive lineman.
Say day 2, a guy like Alfred Collins from Texas. 6'5.5", 320 pounds. The arms are almost 35 inches. This guy is so disruptive versus the run. He sees it so well, powerful at the point of attack. We're going to get our safety here or whatever position they go in the first. Day 2, round 2, a guy like Alfred Collins. That's who I'm targeting.
Meanwhile, Chiefs tight end Travis Kelce planning on returning in 2025. The Nighthawks home tomorrow night as Albany is the opponent. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, The Fan, Rochester.
The sports leader, 95.7 FM, and streaming online at thefanrochester.com and the Odyssey app. This is The Fan, Rochester.
Happy hour continues with a round of shots.
You know, it's all how you frame something sometimes, Danger. Would this convince you otherwise? What if I framed it like this? The Buffalo Sabres, a fact. They've lost just 1 game in February.
Wow. That's
Sounds
really
good.
impressive.
Yeah.
Wow, they must be doing great.
Woo. Well, they've only played 5 today, but still.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sabres finish out the shortened month in Carolina tonight. As we mentioned earlier, it's not Carolina. They're playing the Hartford Whalers, which we've discussed this before. Does that offend you if you're in Hartford? I mean, if the Sacramento Kings broke out the Rochester jerseys, I'd be gaga. I'd be trying to get on their website, buying the stuff. But if you live through that, is it too soon? Or like if you're from Connecticut?
I think that they just still view it as their team. Like Carolina is actually their team. And so when they wear the jerseys tonight, if you're a Connecticut hockey fan, you're probably still rooting for the Whalers.
Is there any other team that does this? I know the Expos came back. The Nationals dressed as the Expos one weekend, but I can't think of another team that's still, and that probably stings for everybody up in Montreal, I would think.
Yeah.
Anyways, Buffalo won 4-2 against these Carolina Hurricanes back on January 15th. Our coverage will begin at 7 tonight here on The Fan. An update on this story involving Fox's Joy Taylor. Thank you, Danger. It was back in January that a former hairstylist accused Taylor of mocking her ethnicity in the lawsuit. Claiming that Taylor allegedly had sexual relations with a Fox executive and co-host Emmanuel Acho.
We're getting into some real hard news here, Gino. Let's tread lightly.
This to advance her career. A month went by, nothing, and Taylor went back to working as normal, and the story would fade away until now, where this week she's been placed on leave by the network. No reason given by Fox.
I think we have a reason. Good luck out there, Joy. Well done.
I don't know if she recovers from this. No. This from the Underground Lounge podcast. Former Miami Heat star Dwayne Wade can pinpoint the time LeBron James had enough of South Florida. Wade says James was pissed when Pat Riley took his cookies and felt it was a sign that LeBron might leave due to Riley's micromanagement.
What is this? Hold on a second. LeBron had cookies, and Riley said, "Get those cookies away." Like the scene from Dallas last year where Luka's drinking a beer, and the guy walks, the GM walks by, or not the GM. Was it GM?
No, it was Michael Finley who was an executive. Yeah,
takes the beer away from him.
Something like that. Yeah, that it was. So the way this was described. And Maggie was laying this out like, wow, that is really bad if you're going to treat your star this way, where it's the back-to-back nights, right? And so he get on the charter plane, and they have their team food. But something about LeBron I didn't know, and this is like one of his vices, he likes to wolf down a bag of cookies. Okay, who doesn't like themselves some good cookies? And if you're on a back-to-back and you want some quick energy and you're a world-class athlete, there are worse things. But if you're somebody that gets micromanaged, maybe that's not such a good thing. So this became a thing that, how like, hey, at a concert, an artist needs their M&Ms or whatever it is. Well, LeBron, whenever he got on the charter plane, needed his bag of cookies. So they're all playing their poker, and LeBron is in the middle of his poker game, and he asks for his bag of cookies, and somebody says, "No, it's not
Riley
here."
took him away.
Riley took it away, and at that point, LeBron was so upset that he didn't get his cookies, he flipped over the table, and it was at that point where he's heading to free agency. You didn't think that LeBron wouldn't hold that against you?
Listen, you can love me, and I know some of you hate me as well. But the one thing you will always do is respect me and appreciate the way I approach the game and what I've given to this game. Thank you.
Just respect his cookies, Mrs. Fields. Mrs. Fields loves him.
I hear that. I think of Cartman.
You will respect my daughter.
Finally, parking in Los Angeles, Danger. You've been there more recently than I have. I would think it's not fun, particularly for a Laker game, but, it's not as bad as you might think. I did a quick search today that you can find lots for as low as $40 somewhere around the arena, although it still sucks having to pay $40 for parking, right? Well, you didn't have to do that Tuesday night. Maybe it wasn't every lot, but there were lots around the arena that had signs, free parking, courtesy of Luka, a promo from Nike, the newest Laker, picking up the tab on parking.
I would hope that if Nike wanted to do this the right way, they would make those parking lots the farthest away from Staples so you could get the most amount of steps possible to stay in shape before the Laker game. And maybe you park it in, you call it the Luka lot, and you just make it, it's in Riverside, and you have to walk all the way to Staples Center. Well, that's nice. That's a nice little publicity stunt that they pulled there for the fans.
Hey, Nike, let's not stop there, okay? Because our parking is expensive here, too. And you have Josh Allen. You have Amari Cooper. You even have Keon Coleman. So how about parking courtesy of Keon Coleman? Can we do that? One game, maybe? What do you think?
Yeah, let's it's a good way to win back. And Nike's been struggling as of recent years, from what I understand. So, yeah, if you want to win back the good graces of supporters of your brand, pay for our parking at New Highmark Stadium a game or two. That would be a lot of fun. But in the case of Luka, we got to park as far away as possible. Let's get in our steps. Let's make sure nobody accuses us of being out of shape as we're going to a game. We got to take a break. Last call is next, and we're going to meet new St. John Fisher football coach, Ed Raby.
Ed Raby taking over for legendary Paul Vosberg as, hey, can the Cardinals kind of get back on this track? First year I was calling St. John Fisher football, Danger. They're in the Final Four. Pierre Garçon and Cecil Schwartz on the other side. This is where I believe Fisher football has the ability to get to. We'll get Ed Raby's thoughts on how he goes about building this program.
He's coming up next on The Fan.
You're listening. Battaglia on the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 The Fan, Rochester.
Something special for last call today in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. We get to meet new St. John Fisher head football coach Ed Raby. Good with his time to join us now. And Coach, thank you for making some time for us. What was it about this program that attracted you to it, and what's your plan to build here on the rich history of Cardinal football? Welcome aboard.
Thank you. Well, thank you guys for having me. I appreciate you guys having me, and I'm very excited to be the next head football coach at St. John Fisher. Some of the things that attracted me, I've been around Empire 8 football for a long, long time, so I can remember back in the day, the team to beat was always St. John Fisher. I think the unique combination of high-quality athletics along with an elite academic institution, to me, I always viewed it as one of the best jobs in the country. And so when the opportunity came up, I was on it pretty quick because I thought that I could help the program get back to where it's been. I mean, a lot of the things we got to do is really the small things, the little things, the details, and it's kind of been one day at a time so far here, and we just got to be consistent with our habits and goals and take it one day at a time.
You are taking over for a legend, Paul Vosberg, head coach since 1991. Have you been in touch with Paul? Is he kind of a resource here for you, Ed?
Absolutely, and one of the things I've talked to Paul quite a bit. I've been on the phone with him a couple times. He met with me on Monday. One of the things I definitely want to make sure we do is honor his legacy. I mean, Fisher football is not what it is today if it wasn't for Paul Vosberg. So, I mean, I've known him, obviously, coaching against him for a while, and he's been very, very helpful. He's going to help me a ton with the alumni. So he's going to be a Cardinal for life, and he's definitely going to have a home in our program no matter what.
Coach Ed Raby, new head coach, St. John Fisher football, our guest here in the Sports Bar with Danger and Battaglia. You mentioned your familiarity with Empire 8, the last 8 seasons, SUNY Morrisville. How would you describe your coaching philosophy, and what's your plan here to implement it at St. John Fisher?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, I'm a relationship-based coach. I believe in the coaches developing a strong relationship with the players and helping them, sort of achieve their life goals, not just football goals. So we want to be relationship-oriented, and then we want to kind of have a winning mindset. So that's one of the things I've been talking about. I think everyone wants to be a good football player when they get into college football, but I want the guys to be winners in everything they do and want to be the best and be extremely competitive. I think the way you implement it is just, again, this week we've spent a lot of time getting to know each other, and I've talked to the team about we have to build connections, and you have to become a family, in order to play for something bigger than yourself. So it's really a relationship building process right now, and then kind of getting to work to spring ball later in the month.
Ed, you won 7 games at Morrisville, and this is me talking. I think that's fantastic there. You have more resources at your disposal here at Fisher and in Rochester. So knowing that you could recruit kids to go to Morrisville and win there, how much work is ahead? What are your thoughts about just getting out there? Maybe this won't show up, certainly not at this stage in the 2025 season, but just building for the future. How important is it to go out and recruit?
I mean, it's the lifeblood of every program. I think, in my opinion, recruiting, again, it goes back to people. If you get a kid on campus at Fisher, you're going to have a good chance at landing that kid because the school is an elite school. The facilities are tremendous. To me, the decision-making factor that we got to be better at is building relationships, spreading our net a little wider. I think that St. John Fisher is a regionally attractive school. I think we should be getting kids not just from New York, but New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, the New England states. So we're gonna get on it real quick to try and it's gonna late start for 2025, but we're gonna try and wrap up the class here, and then we're gonna start 2026 pretty quickly.
How has your evaluation of the current roster been going? What are your impressions, and are there areas here that you can look at and say we need to strengthen that?
Well, I'm excited about the current roster. If you ask me, I mean, I've coached against these guys. The thing about the Empire 8, and I think everyone has to kind of keep in mind, is everybody's good. So, like Fisher had 3 to 4 one-possession games in this past year. I mean, they could have easily been a 6-7 win team. If you go a year before that, Fisher could have easily been a 7-win team. I think the key is you got to win the close ones in the Empire 8, and that, to me, that's building that team camaraderie, building that toughness. The roster, to me, I mean, there's plenty of great skill players. linemen on both sides of the ball that I think are pretty talented. So everybody in the league has talent. I don't think that's any different at Fisher right now.
Did you keep both coordinators, Chris Keys and then your offensive coordinator, coach?
We're currently in the process of evaluating that. I haven't made any decisions on that yet. So I just got here, but I'm going to talk to everybody and get to know everybody. At the end of the day, whenever in the next few weeks we'll make some decisions, I'm going to do what I think is best for Fisher football and the players here for us to be the most successful team we can be moving forward.
And Ed, since you've just gotten through the interview process and we're interviewing you for the first time, I'll ask you the standard interview question. What is your vision for St. John Fisher in this program the next 3 years, the next 5 years under your leadership?
My vision, I don't know if I have a timeline on it necessarily. To me, we want to be one of the premier Division III football programs in the country. I truly believe that this is a place that should be a top 20 football team on a regular basis. And so that's our long-term goal. That's what we're trying to get to. And now that we've kind of set that vision kind of in front of everybody and talked about it, you got to kind of stop talking about it at some point and not worry about outcomes and focus on the process. So, but yeah, our vision is going to be big. We're not going to try and be average. I can promise you that.
Ed Raby, St. John Fisher football. Now, you haven't released a schedule, but I know it's FDU. Coach Vosberg told me there. So, hopefully we get the schedule soon. We're going to be bringing you all the games home and away. And, Ed, look, I don't want to wish time away, but I'm ready for Fisher football, bud.
I can't wait as myself. Yeah, we're going to be I just talked to Mike a little bit today about getting the schedule out, so we'll be getting it out soon. And I'm really excited to get a chance to meet you guys in person. And then to me, I just want everyone to know we're going to put our heart and soul into helping this program get back to where it was, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Love hearing it. Welcome to St. John Fisher football. Head coach Ed Raby, good with his time joining us here in the Sports Bar. Enjoy your night, man.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed. Coach Ed Raby, new head football coach at St. John Fisher University. And, Gino, I'm sure you'll have plenty of chances to talk to him here in the coming weeks and months.
Yeah, football is great at any level, and we appreciate our relationship with St. John Fisher. Tomorrow we'll talk to Andrew Mossbrooks. We'll also talk to Andy Young. We never had him on the show. He's a Spectrum. He's been out in Indianapolis all week, so more Combine talk tomorrow in the Sports Bar.
Great. We'll have a Sabres game to react to as well, and the Amerks hitting the road tomorrow night as well, so Mossbrooks would be great adding some color to that as well. If you missed any part of the show, the Odyssey app is our home online. You can go back and listen with Rewind. Stand by for the JR Sport Brief next on the Fan Rochester. Sabres hockey coming up.
You're listening to the Sports Bar.